We are live.
Today's study circle meeting on very interesting topic, India entry services packing under one umbrella. Very interesting service, very interesting session. To handle this session, we have young and dynamic dashing speakers, none other than Gopalakrishnan sir and Srilakshmi. Welcome you both of you, man. It's a very interesting session because these two speakers, they're going to explain how a foreigner comes to India, what all the services can be given under one roof. That's what they're going to explain. Generally, we won't handle those kind of sessions, but very interesting to listen and adapt in our regular day-to-day practice. With this, once again, I welcome you all for this program and wish you all a happy New Year in advance. And very interesting programs awaited even in January also. For this year, I think this is the last program from Bangalore branch. Next year, we have a very interesting programs. Hope to see you all on those programs. Once again, welcome you all. I request Pramod Secretary to give a brief introduction of both the speakers. Over to Pramod. Not able to hear you.
Thank you, Chairman. I would like to take the privilege in introducing S. Gopalakrishnan sir and Srilakshmi ma'am. Both are partners in Guru and Jana. Gopalakrishnan sir is a chartered accountant who is currently heading corporate accounting solution and specializes in startups. He's worked in L&T, TVS Logistics, General Optics Asia Limited. And Srilakshmi madam, by academics, she is MSc Psychology, Company Secretary, Chartered Accountant, Insolvency Professional, Masters and Bachelors in Commerce, Gold Medal from Azim Premji, and also an Independent Director from Institute of Corporate Affairs. She is worked in BMR Associates and currently handling entry services, payroll, and HR function in Guru and Jana. With this brief introduction, I would like to welcome both the speakers, and I wouldn't like to come between the speakers and the participants. So over to you.
Thank you very much, Chairman sir, Secretary sir, for having us here. This is in fact Gopalakrishnan's debut session, so I'm honored to share the stage with him, and always grateful for Bangalore branch to make it interesting for all of our participants, whoever finds interest in the sessions that we want to take and share. And all of the topics that you've been lining up, sir, are very interesting, and you're pulling in some of the good speakers. So thank you immensely for all the efforts every one of you put.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So I'll quickly start sharing the presentation, what Gopal and I want to talk about. So we have distributed the session between Gopal and me so that there is no monotony in what we are speaking. Some I will take, and then some Gopal will take, then some jointly we will speak. So this is based on our experience of what we've handled in the last few years and how we've built this entire India entry services. So I remember Srinivas sir calling me and asking, ma'am, India entry services andre eno salpa, can you just throw some light, because it doesn't sound like something what CAs do. I said,
Umbrella andre eno anta ಕೇಳಿ.
Umbrella andre eno, ma'am, ಛತ್ರಿ ಎಲ್ಲ ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡು ಏನ್ ಮಾಡೋದು, he was saying. So sir, we'll tell how we can package and productize the entire session is what I told him. So that is what we aim to do. What is it you do not know in this presentation? In fact, there is nothing you do not know. So firstly, all of us here are knowing what we want to talk. You will all hear and you'll feel, okay, I know this, I know this, I know this. But what we also want to drive to you is how this service can be how a service can be productized, how it can be packaged to a client when you are rendering services. That is the entire idea. So knowing is not doing, doing is in fact doing, and doing is being. So the entire session is around what we can do more to the services that we are already rendering as a firm. So for whom is this presentation? This presentation is targeted to some of us who are practicing professionals, who are practitioners, small and medium practitioners. So if you ask me whether this presentation is for us to get someone like Tata as a client, no, that is not what we are immediately focusing on. We are looking to have clients who are the size of 5, 20, 25, 30, 3,500, whatever they grow to be, as when they enter India. Who enters India? Your US clients, UK clients, German, Sweden, all of the parent companies outside of India, if they want to come to India and set up their operations in India, what is it that you need to take care of? What is it that a client you can service as is the entire idea behind it. So we have purposely targeted our segmentation as smaller entities, and smaller entities because larger profits is the game. When you're rendering services for a company which is 5 people headcount or 10 people headcount, and eventually they scale up to become higher, that's when you grow with them. So you become partners in progress with our clients, and these clients will eventually have funding coming into India, or they will have acquisition outside India, they will have global acquisitions. All of those times is when you can actually grow with the client, and when the client makes a profit, you make a huge revenue with the client also. That is the entire idea. So it is going to be useful for all of us who are in that space, who are building our practice, who've built a practice. CA firms from the size of 2 to 500, 600, whatever we talk of, this is going to be that segment of practicing firms where it is going to be useful for you and important for you to know how you can use these services into your CA practices. What is it that Gopal and I are covering? We are planning to cover what all India entry services can include. So India entry, we understood, is someone coming to India and setting up operations here in India. It can be something even in people are in India and they want to enter services into India, they are also covered under this umbrella. Certain nuances you need to know, because when foreigners come to India, or when businessmen or these IIT, IIM graduates want to start some businesses in India, they might not exactly understand the finance jargons. At that time, what is it that we can help them to understand is what we give you here, and how to get business. There are some points on where we have covered on what we can do to get business. Today, by word of mouth, by referrals, all of us get a lot of business. Through websites also we get. So some of the important focus points we are going to tell you on how to get business. Certain aspects which are specific to holding company and India company. So this India subsidiary relationship, what are the important sectoral regulations that you need to follow? We are going to cover on a few things, because not all of them would be known to us unless we are practicing that law and we have made mistakes ourselves, we've learned it, and then we have gone ahead. We have experimented, we have understood, and then we've moved ahead. That is one of the ways to learn. Or we learn from someone who has done the mistakes themselves and now are passing on their experience to us. That's a way to do it. What is the technology we can use? Today we are a paperless office, and today we are very technology oriented in a lot of things that we do, because as CA firms we all have compliances and whole lot of things that we are supposed to monitor for a client. That way technology plays a very important role. So the tools that we are going to use are going to help us, and that is definitely going to help us scale our operations. How to package? So this packaging of the services that we are referring to into a product that we can sell to a client, that is what we are going to help in some of the tips that we will probably give it to you as we speak in this session, and specific legal provisions to keep in mind. So these specific legal provisions are also important, where we cover everything statutorily as professionals, as accountants, but beyond that, as professionals, some of the legal things also we can guide our clients, is the whole idea. So on the next services and the slide, Gopal is going to step in and he's going to take from here for a few slides more.
Thank you so much, Sri. Thank you, Srinivas sir, and thank you, Pramod. This session is very special for me, not that because it's my debut session. This is the service which I started my practice with. When I completed my stint in the industry and I joined Gurujana, this is the service which was assigned to me, and I started my practice with this service. Just to give you the context, when I joined, we had 0 clients with 3 members. So I, along with my 3 members, started this service, and today, by God's grace and by support of all partners and all people, I am heading a team of 40 members with around 100 clients to handle. So this is the growth which we can achieve, and this is what we are talking about today, like how we can achieve this. It's something which is a process oriented basically, and as Srinivasa sir told, umbrella services. Why we mean umbrella is we protect our client from all the all the compliances, all the legal statute, whatever notices, whatever communications they are going to get, we are going to protect them. That is why we name this as an umbrella service, that end-to-end compliance service. So this particular slide, what does India services mean? India NT services, as Sri already talked about, we are going to target a small company. Let us take an example, a company from Delaware. So a company from Delaware wants to set up a small subsidiary in India. A software company from Delaware wants to set up a small company in India, maybe with 15 to 20 people. That is the size they want to have it maybe in a year's time. What is that we can do with this small company? How can we package our services such that our target can be 20 lakhs and honest revenue? Let us say there need not to be anything which is hodgepodge, a strict honest revenue of 20 lakhs. How can we package it? That is what we are going to see. Take an example, everyone would have gone abroad or to a state outside our resident state. Let us say we go to a place, we don't have a Google map. We don't have that book, it's Lonely Planet. We don't have that Lonely Planet book. We don't have a guide. Understand the situation where we will be in. We will not be able to move places. We will not know what to do, how to do. That is the same position an expat or an foreigner is going to be when he is in India. With so much tons and tons of laws, so much compliances, that is what he will get confused. And this is where we are going to pitch in. This is where we are going to use our professional acumen, our professional expertise, and help him out. And how we can do that and how at the same time we can benefit is what we are going to discuss and share our experiences with. Sri, next slide, please. The end results could be same. The process is what is important. We do audits, everyone, all chartered accountants do audits. All across our community, we do tax filings, we do GST filings. The end result is same. But what is that which differentiates us from others? That is the process. The process is what differentiates everyone, and that is what will also help us. What we are going to share is how are we going to customize our process? How are we going to customize our services such that we can showcase it as a product to the person who is coming into India, and also let him know that India is an easier place to do business with. That is what we are going to discuss. Next slide, please.
In fact, Gopal, when you were telling, you made your debut as a professional in Gurujana with the same thing. For me also, it's the same thing. When I came here, tax was saturated, audit was saturated, and then where do we fit in? India entry services was a term we coined. And today we managed to make it click. So
Yes.
I'm sure India entry services that way will resonate with a lot of people who are in the session today.
And sharing our experiences, I think that will also help them out to match with them and take hints from this. As I told earlier, the process is what differentiates us. So what is that we are going to do as a process? As I told, an foreigner who is going to come into India is actually already he has done a Google search, and he will know lot of things, and that is our main challenge to face with. We will have to give him a process, a simplified process whereby he can know whatever he wants to know, where we are progressing, what he can expect from what is going to happen, and what will be the timelines. This activity chart is a simple Google chart, maybe a Google, Microsoft, or whichever is convenient for us. It's just a simple chart which says what are all the initial registrations and what will be the timeline. Assume he is coming in April. Say he needs to do an incorporation, PAN, TAN, PT, both employer-employee, GST, shops and establishments, provident fund, ESI. All these registrations, how long it will take? So this is the timeline we give it. We say that, okay, April, it takes 30 days for you for doing all these registrations. Simultaneously, what we do also is, we also tell him that, hey, you are coming into India, there is an act called GST, there is transfer pricing which might be applicable to you. and we need to have a benchmarking exercise. We need to have an agreement drafted. So all these processes also there. So how are you going to handle that? So this chart will give him the entire idea of what are all the initial registrations and what is going to be the initial activity for him and what is the timeline for that. We just graph it as an example. Depending upon how it is, it may take 1 month or you can extend it 2 months. So if you give a clear idea, he need not continuously keep following up with us. Whenever he wants, he can go see the activity chart and know where what is happening. Next slide. Next one. Yeah. So this is the we saw the initial inceptions first, registrations first. Now comes the monthly registrations. So we start with labor compliances. We have to tell him ESI, profession tax, provident fund, all these compliances are on a monthly basis. And we also give him a due date. So what happens is any foreigner who comes to India is very specific on timelines. So when we commit, we have to be very clear, and we also have to ensure that we commit within the same timelines. So what we do is we give him a timeline saying, hey, April, May, June, July, up to March, monthly basis, all these compliances have to be done. And labor welfare fund is in December. So he will clearly know, okay, monthly, these are the compliances. And what we do is we have a dashboard, which I'll take it later on, which will also give him of the idea of what has been complied with. This is the initial slide, which will tell him what are all the compliances which he will have to face when he is going to do a registration for a head count of 15 to 20. Then comes the revenue compliances, which is GST, GST returns, reconciliations, withholding taxes, withholding tax returns, and advance tax calculations. So we have given him, one is the labor compliances, the second one is revenue related, which will be a GST, and which will be a income tax related. So we have given him an entire idea of what will be his monthly statutory compliances. So this slide will make him clear, okay, this is what he has to handle. And we tell him that, okay, this is only for your information. There is nothing you have to do on this. We are going to take care of this, but this is what we'll be taking care of for you. And these are the timelines for that. Next slide. Then corporate law compliances, again, board meetings. So we will say that, okay, you have come in April. Once a company is incorporated, you would have to have an initial board meeting. Then you would have to have every board meeting every quarter or within 180 days. And we give him that entire timeline. What we do is, this is only an initial timeline. We also share with him like the dates which can be, or the maximum due dates by which he should have the board meetings, so that they can plan well in advance. Similarly, shareholders meeting, we have one in the first and one in September, which is nothing but our financial statements approval. So we tell them that these two are the shareholders meeting, which are compulsory. The other board meetings, we say that these are all need-based. So any other corporate compliances, we say there are a lot of compliances. We give them a list of forms to be filed, a list of complaints to be done. And we tell them that these are all need-based. We will do it as and when it requires. It is just for your information. Then apart from the revenue, apart from the previous slide, there is one more there. Apart from the corporate compliances, GST, labor law, there is also soft text to be filed, capital induction of RBI, FCTPR filings, transfer pricing study, building methodology, which we have to discuss with the client, finalize it, and FLA returns, which has to be filed with RBI. So we give a complete picture of what from the incorporation and what he has to do and what compliances it will be there for him in this entire chart. So this is very clear, and he will not keep coming back to us saying, okay, what is done now? So where are we? So everything he will be taken care in this particular activity chart. Next one. This is the annual renewal. So apart from the monthly, we will tell him, okay, since he is coming into India, there are a lot of audits which are there for him. A statutory audit, a tax audit, a GST audit. And apart from that, there are annual compliances like filing of income tax returns, GST returns, FLA returns, and there might be some renewals of various statutory acts like your shops and establishments or your professional tax act. So all this, we will list it out and we'll tell that all this are an year-end activity. We will be taking care of all this, but please understand, for statutory audits, we will, as per the institute guidelines, we will not be able to do a statutory audit. Let us be very clear and transparent here with them, because sometimes what happens is, we will say that, no, we have a separate arm, they will do statutory audit, you don't have to worry. But let us keep it very clear and simple. Since we are doing an accounting activity and a compliance activity, we will not be able to do an audit, and even a firm related to us, let us keep it outside our ambit of this particular service, because it will show us as we are very transparent. That is what they also expect us. So we tell them that, okay, statutory audits, we will have a panel of auditors, and we will bifurcate it into three categories. One is the big firms, if they want to, the medium-sized firms, and the smaller firms. We also tell them that, okay, if you want a big-sized firm or an MNC firms, this will be the approximate cost. We will not be able to estimate the cost, because that has to be done between the auditor and the client. So we just introduce them and we come out. So what it will be like an audit from an MNC firm, or you want a small firm, or you want a medium-sized firm. So we introduce them, and then we coordinate with the auditors to ensure that all these compliances are done. Then the final one, which is the routine operations, end-to-end accounting, end-to-end payroll, your employee query or payroll management, or any queries or basic clarifications other than opinions. We have to be very clear here that whenever we give a basic clarification, we have to ensure that it is not reaching the level of an opinion. It is only a basic clarification we have to do. And this routine operations, it has to be predominantly tech driven, because for a simple activity, let us take for a monthly compliance, there is GST, there is TDS, there is your book closure, there is your professional tax, PF, ESA. So which means an average of 4 to 5 people will be working, and a team of around 10 people will be working for one client, or maybe required for one client, which means that it will be difficult for the client to go with each and everyone to see what is what or to confirm. So it is better we have a tech driven platform. So what happens is the client will never know which what. He'll just have to say that, okay, hey, what is status of my GST return? Automatically what happens is the person who is handling it will respond to that, and the client will know that, okay, GST return file, this is the acknowledgement. So this is where we differentiate ourselves. This is what I call as a customization of a product or our service, so that they will appreciate the value which we are adding it to them. Next slide, Sri.
So exactly, Gopal. In fact, what we have told now is known to everyone already.
Correct.
And what we just have to do, I'm sure there might be a better way of presenting what we are showing right now itself. That is the whole idea which Gopal and I are trying to drive through our presentation today. In fact, when we go to a dentist telling we have tooth pain, at that time they'll tell no, some sensitivity is there, you try this toothpaste. And then after some more days we'll go and tell, oh no, cavity has happened. Then after some more days he'll tell, no, you have to put one inlay inside. And then after some more days he'll tell, no, it's gone totally, it's root canal only. But I am thinking, I went to the dentist when I realized that I have a tooth pain itself. Why did he have to go through this entire process and then fleece me for my money, and then make sure that my pain got worse? So the idea here is, when a client comes to India, we can't keep telling them, okay, we'll do incorporation for you, and then later tell I'll do registrations for you, and then later tell I will do accounting for you, and then later come up with compliances, and then payroll, and then whole lot of things. If you keep adding to them, they will not have a visibility of the budget that they're supposed to keep for the entire company for a year. Instead, if we are able to plan well in advance and give them a sort of a menu card and tell them, okay, this is your activity chart, these are the steps, and then you have monthly, then you have quarterly, half yearly, yearly, whatever you're supposed to take it, then it becomes easier. In fact, one of the tools like Zoho has something called a project, Zoho projects. So a client can be a project for you, and this entire thing what we ran through in the tracker which we have put here can be driven either through a Excel file, or you can do it through tools that you can use. So the entire idea is where you're moving from amber to green. So which is where you are going to give a client telling, we have started this service and then we've completed it also. So like a tracker where we help a client understand these are the things that we want to do.
Absolutely, Sri. So just adding there, that gives the client an entire visibility, and also is rest assured that, okay, these are all the compliances which he has to handle, and these are all the activities which we add, and we are going to package it. So next slide is yours.
Thanks, Gopal. So when a foreign entity needs to enter into India, what has to be done? So this is specifically, that is why we call this the India Entry Services. And foreign entity coming to India is a little more complex than a simple all resident directors and all resident shareholders. what happens when there is a foreign parent. The compliances are a little different there. So that is what we are trying to cover. So step one is building confidence for a client. We help them with all of the simplicity that we can and lucidity and understand Google is there. Like already Gopal mentioned, they will come to you with a lot of Google knowledge and ask you several more questions. So in our presentation itself, when we are doing, we can make it clear to them, these are the things that are there, and they will also feel happy. And India is a non-corrupt country. We have to impress that on them, because today incorporations have happened in a day's time, and the fee also is so less, and the registrations are becoming online with every passing technology that the government is introducing. I know, please pardon me if you are scolding V3 and income tax portals. I understand your pain, but the whole idea is the government is making an effort to make it better for us. And maybe the state governance, the state government registrations also, if more of it becomes online, then things will be more free and no corruption, zero corruption. We will enter there sometime. So step two is the corporate affairs and governance. We have to also here tell that corporate governance is an important aspect, because I have known companies where they will never sign any document backdated. They are willing to go for compounding for a board meeting that was not conducted, even though there are two directors who are sitting next to each other and probably meeting every day of their lives. There also, if you ask them, consider some meeting was done and you sign the document, they will never agree to sign. And we also should not advocate those type of practices. So we have to give a comfort to the client that there are no backdating of documents, which is where it is important that we give the entire array of services that we can render to a client. And then the state and central regime, whatever is applicable on the local labor regulations, that also we have to make clear. What is the online requirements we have on GST, and then your professional taxes, which are the state regimes, those type of things also we have to communicate well. So there we have to play a role in getting all of these registrations good and nice. So if a client is having a registered office in Bangalore but has their employees sitting out of Hyderabad, then you have to help them understand that yes, the regulations are a little different in Hyderabad, and the labor regulations relating to Hyderabad also you will have to follow. All of them will appreciate what we tell them if the guidance is right, and not at each time take them through mess and tell them, okay, this is there, that is there, this is there. Everything is simple. Basically tell them and give them Excel chart or anything that the client is understanding easily, maybe a presentation, and help them take it through. And step three, it is not a one-off exercise, because a client coming to India and incorporation is not a one-off exercise. So you can't tell that I will incorporate a company and then I'm done with it. No, it is a service where we engage with a client, we partner with a client and help them and take them through the entire annual, monthly, and initial setup phase, whatever we are required to do. And it is an engagement for the lifetime of the company. Because if we are incorporating, then the other end of the spectrum is the liquidation. Through that also, we are the ones who have to handhold our clients. So this engagement has to be through the life cycle of the company, that the company is going to be here in India with us, and give clarity of the full year of operations. So Gopal already took us through that entire thing and told what is the full year of operations. We have to work towards giving the entire clarity. And what is our progress in India? For that, we can divide it into four things. One is the incorporations and registrations bit. That is more to do with the procedural aspect. Two, commercial aspects where we can add value as professionals based on our experience that we've had in handling clients. And what is the progress? So we keep updating them about what is the progress at each point in time, what is the tick off we have done on the steps that we need to follow. And then the holding company versus India company. Here, what is it that we are required to know? In fact, Gopal and I thought that any questions we have, and if we can raise it as and when we are taking the session also, we'll be happy to take it up, or towards the end of the session also, we'll be happy to take it up. Either ways, we will cover whatever questions our members may have. So far, what we've discussed is very basic, so I don't see a worry there. Then coming to the stage one of incorporation and registrations, the category here is again step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4 only, what all we can achieve at what stages. So the DSC and DIN becomes the primary importance. So digital signatures certificate and the director identification number. We have to help a client understand all of it can happen through online documents which they give to us. There is no need of physical submission of incorporation documents. Gone are the days where you had to collect originals and go and stand in the queue at the ROC. Then review of MOA and AOA is one of the important aspects.
Sri, just to interrupt here, I remember an incident which you told me, saying that once you talked with with a client, a new client, asking for the father's name, and he got very upset with it, asking why is that a father's name is being asked. So that is the level of understanding they all have, and we had to explain to him that this DSC, this DIN, all these needs a father's name. We have to show the form to him. He asked us to send the form. We sent the form to him. He studied it, and then he gave the father's name. So I really still have that in my mind, that whenever I talk with a foreigner, I just clearly understand how to talk. That was one learning for me, Sri, actually.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm very careful now. I'll only send him a checklist. I'll not directly ask, give me your father's name, because in the foreign countries, they'll get very offended, rightly so. Coming to the review of MOA and AOA, here the Memorandum and Articles of Association are standard formats given under the Companies Act. Where you can add value is definitely the objects under the memorandum. Have a template of a memorandum under each sector, software sector or manufacturing sector. That way, sector-wise, you can have the objects ready, because broadly everything will get covered under that. The articles, we have customized it over a period of time with every practical problem that we have faced with any approvals that we wanted from the ROC. At the time of incorporation itself, we've been smart enough to now include that. Like someone wanted a dividend waiver and someone wanted different rights for the shareholders voting. Like that, we have now added that into the articles and memorandum, which we are giving to our clients. And these articles and memorandum, the US or the UK team or the foreign parents have generally a legal team. They're very cautious about what they're going to sign, and so they will give a confirmation that we are good to go on the MOA AOA. It should not happen so later, 2 years later, they'll come back to me and tell, you have done this filing on your own, you have not even taken permission from us. So not to land up in this sort of a situation, we have to make sure that we have given the information beforehand. Even using of digital signature, it is our rule in the office that without the express written permission of a client, we do not use their digital signature, because some of our articles might be holding our digital signatures, or we might be doing it through a vendor. So whatever we do, have it in writing, and then only have the processes. That is what we are trying to more emphasize here. The process is in place for even a simple aspect of using a digital signature. And when a client understands how professional we are in all of these aspects, they will have more confidence and trust their digital signature with us. Or they will be confused telling how she can use my digital signature. So as to not end up in that situation, make sure that everything is written and then taken approval of. Understand the rights, liabilities, and duties of the director. The foreign directors are especially not so comfortable being directors on the India board, because they have heard cases of imprisonment, and there is always that uncertainty element for them. So what we do is we've prepared a nice 4 deck slide where we give them and help them understand, if you're in the right hands of a professional, then there is no worry for you. And we also help them understand what is the role and responsibility of a resident director opposed to a non-executive director. So when there are foreign nationals and who are not drawing salary here from India, we have to essentially make them non-executive directors. All those also we take them through when we are doing the discussion. And coming to the officialization of the documents, that is the apostille. So there are a few conventions which I'll touch upon it a little later. Notary and everything is also required. This is dealt with in a more detailed manner in the next few slides. In fact, giving birth to a baby is possibly easier than looking after the baby. I'm sure a lot of parents will voice this sentiment. So incorporation, yes, if we do it rightly, there is no worry. Then later, what is required from us, that's where professionally we can add a lot of value. Statutory registrations come with the incorporation itself. Your PAN and TAN help the client understand what are the tax ID numbers there are. Labor registration, some of them have become a part of the incorporations that we file. So depending on the number of employees, these also are supposed to get taken care of. What is incorporation? So apostille process we have to do. Know where is the embassy or notary. We help a client understand in their foreign country where they have to go and apostille or notarize the documents. So Gopal was already talking about father's name. Most documents would not have that in the foreign countries, but you have to establish a proof who is the father, and we have to file that. Then director's liabilities also we are required to educate a client. How much time the directors would need to spend on India company. Typically, the directors of the foreign companies will not have to spend a lot of time, except for incorporation, maybe that DSC video authentication and confirmation that their DSC can be used. Only that time is where they spend time at the time of incorporation. And beyond that, the finance team will get involved. Probably the directors might not even be actively in picture to understand what is the India status and what is the MIS, everything we present. And the next of the points is the beneficial interest forms. This is one of the important things we have found is a way which we can secure the clients' voting rights and dividend which we have to pay to them. At the time of incorporation itself, we have to file something called the MGT6 as soon as the capital has been received, because 99.99% and 0.01% shareholding is required under the law. This 0.01%, that one share what we are talking about, this share can be held by the individual, somebody which the company nominates here in India, but you receive the entire share capital from the parent company and file the MGT6 forms here. See, the 100% of the capital can come from the parent company without that single shareholding being without that single shareholder giving that money is what we want to emphasize here. Most people will take 10 rupees and take that 9,999 or 99,990 rupees. Instead, avoid that and get that entire 1 lakh rupees from the parent company itself. That's the entire idea here. And then a resident director, we spoke of it. A resident director is someone who will be responsible for all the actions here and every compliance that the India company is supposed to be responsible for. We also pass express resolutions stating that the resident director is one who is the compliance officer of the company. That is to protect the foreign directors. And if the India company head is the director, we make them understand what is it that the India company director is getting into. The apostille and notary process, which I said we'll touch upon it. So if the subscriber is a foreign national outside India, we have to take their ID proof document, address proof, and subscriber sheet of MOA and AOA has to be signed off. These documents have to be authenticated in the foreign country. This is a law in the Companies Act incorporation rules what we have. Because in India, they do not understand what are the foreign company documents. They ask their embassy to apostille and notarize these documents and give it to us in a language we understand. So suppose there is a company of a France parent which you are incorporating here in India, their documents are going to be in French. You have to then translate it and then get it notarized and apostille and then file those documents. Apostille and notary is something that is a part of the Hague Apostille Convention nations or the UK, that is the Commonwealth regime. So the British, the UK, those type of companies come under the Commonwealth. It can just give me a few seconds. I can hear a lot. So whoever is a part of the Commonwealth nations, then you have to go with notary only. So in a country in any part of the Commonwealth, his signatures and address on the memorandum and articles of association and the proof of identity shall be notarized by a notary public in that part of Commonwealth. So this is very typical to what we do here in India. In India also we have the notary practice. In the Commonwealth nations also we will have the same notary practice that we are supposed to follow. Hague Apostille Convention nation is, there are a few nations which are a part of this convention. So the treaties that have been signed with these countries are called the Hague Apostille Convention nations. And for them, not only just notary is required, we have to get the apostille of the documents also. Example is USA. USA is the maximum country where companies come to India. Out of 10 companies that I would have incorporated, easily 7 of them will be from USA. So it is important for us to know the Hague Apostille Convention nation. That is basically the apostille and notary that we are supposed to take care of. And if not a Commonwealth or a Hague Apostille Convention nation, I commonly get asked this question from the professionals. In their case, what they have to do is, this is clearly mentioned in the incorporation's rules. if a company is not outside of, if it is outside of Commonwealth or outside of US type of countries, then the signatures and address on the memorandum and articles and the proof of identity shall be notarized before the notary of such country, and the certificate of the notary public shall be authenticated by a diplomatic or a consular office empowered on this behalf. This is given under the section 3 of the diplomatic and consular officers acts. So for this, in their country, they have to identify. And how can it be easy for them to identify? You can either uh, connect a client of yours who you would have done similar such works and help them talk to our client, or you can ask them to talk to their legal people in their country and they will help them with all of these procedures. And the statutory registrations, what all we are required to take care of is, we already know, not much to do here. So PAN, TAN, PF, ESI comes on its own. PF and ESI you have to worry about only once you touch the threshold of 20 or 10. 10 is for ESI and PF is 20. But these registrations will come to you along with incorporation. You don't necessarily have to do the returns for that. But we've got notices from the offices telling you've taken registration, but you have not filed it. At that time, you have to help them understand this was a registration which we obtained at the time of incorporation. So for Karnataka, Maharashtra, and West Bengal, PT also is a part of the online incorporation that we do. GST also is integrated with the incorporation forms. So stage 2 is where Gopal is going to come in.
So now the baby is born. So now we are going to do the registration. Name registration is all done. So now we are going to take it forward. So once a company is incorporated, that is only the starting point. What is that? As a chartered accountant, we can add services where we can add value to the client. We have told as I already discussed with all of you earlier, everyone does the services. There is an incorporation, everyone does it. GST returns, everyone does it. But where is that and value addition can be added? Where is that it can be given as a bouquet of services to them? Is what we are going to take now. And one important is the commercial aspects. These are the relationships which require definitions, documents. So there are a lot of documents here which requires a lot of definitions there, where we will be able to contribute to them, where we will be a value addition to them, especially regarding registration of a rental agreement. More than 11 months, a rental agreement has to be registered. Most of the people will not be aware, so we can educate them, saying that, hey, if it is more than 11-month registration, you would have to get your registration. You have to get your rental agreement registered. For example, place of business related. So I've just divided the commercial aspects into 4 things. One is place of business related, rental agreements, drafting, execution, and stamping. So not only on drafting of rental agreement, sometimes they have a legal team where they will do all the aspects. But since he is coming into India, where we are saying that we will take care of in entirety. This rental agreement drafting, execution, and stamping, we will help them with. We will tell them how it should be drafted, what are all the conditions which are favorable for them. We can, in case there is a call required with the landlord, we will get in call with the landlord, is where we will help him out to draft the rental agreement, not only drafting, executing it, and also stamping it wherever required. Then comes the HR bank account. Here we have to be very careful. Just because we are helping in everything, we should not suggest a bank. We will only propose a bank, because there is a lot of difference between a way a foreign bank functions and an Indian bank functions. So it is always better, and we have to keep in mind that we will only propose, saying that, okay, this is a foreign bank, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These are all the advantages. There are certain disadvantages if it's a foreign bank. Similarly, with an Indian bank, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. For example, an Indian bank, tax payments are allowed. In a case of an bank like say HSBC or something, they have to depend on an external source. It is available, but it takes a lot of time than a normal nationalized bank. So we have to be very constant. We have to tell them clearly, okay, in case of you are going to select a bank, please keep all this in mind, and let us only propose, not suggest any bank. Because on experience, we have faced where when we suggested certain bank and that particular branch was not up to the mark, the client came back to us saying, you suggested a bank, this is not working well, now you coordinate. So it becomes much more of an headache to coordinate with the bankers and all things. So it is always better we propose it. Similarly, forex rates. A foreign bank will have a much better forex department than a nationalized bank. Not saying nationalized bank or lesser, but they have a much better reach than a nationalized Indian bank. Similarly, authorized representative for FEMA or authorized representative for documentation, we have to be very clear with them. We will have to tell them, like, okay, if you are going to sit in a foreign country and be the authorized representative, please understand there are a lot of logistical issues. For example, for the bank to execute a document, they need a physical signature. If the authorized signatory is going to be a foreigner and he sits in US, example, then it becomes difficult for us to every time courier the document from here to there, get it signed, then once again get it back. So it is always better to tell them, to advise them, they have a local representative here, and he can also only be for the purpose of signing of documents. He will not have any approval limits. So that also can be done. So one main point which I have to drive again is, it will be really a bureaucratic mess if you're going to choose a wrong bank. Like say documentation part or any change required, it will be a big headache for us because we are going to handle all that. So we have to be very clear when we are suggesting a bank account for them. Similarly, HR documents.
In fact, Gopal, you and I easily receive calls from 4 bankers every week telling we'll offer this services, that services. Bankers, you have to choose, means we have to choose between the deep sea and the devil. That's how I feel bankers are. They're a necessary evil. I know, with all my respect to all of the bankers that we have worked with, it is still a very draconian process. I have often joked in my office, the alternate source of income for bankers is selling papers, because so many signatures they take, and so often it is blank pages we are supposed to sign. So the entire bank account opening itself for a foreign company which is coming to India, you can package it at 25,000 rupees, I'm telling you, because opening a bank account today is not all that simple. Though we have assurances from the likes of HSBC, Axis, and HDFC banks telling we have made it easy, we've made it paperless, still at the time of opening the bank account, they always give us heart attacks, if not they always give us surprises, if not heart attacks. So with the bankers, I have got scoldings from client where we suggested some banker and the banker messed up. So in all this, what is my mistake? My mistake is I only suggested a banker to them. So you tell them who is the banker who is familiar with the operations and regulations here. These are few of them. And then they can choose from which is the banker that they want to do based on all the Google search that they do and come up with. And the bankers outside India don't even so many times understand what is that SWIFT code, what is that code for transfer that they have to use when they transfer money as capital or when they transfer money as export advance. So all these mess we face with the bankers on a regular basis.
So I can resonate with Sri because like what she said, we have got a lot of scolding from clients because in foreign, opening of an account is just a click of a button, but it is not that in India. So we have to be very careful that moving to HR documents, we can help them with the offer letters, appointment letters, NDAs, insurance details, tax breakups or a salary structuring. We can help them. We can help them on their tax returns. We can help them on telling them that how can they save tax in a proper way under the regulations of the Income Tax Act or under the provisions of Income Tax Act. So all these HR documents, we can play a major role because these are all pure documents. They need not have a specialized skill. It needs a skill, but it need not be an expert specialized skill which are required. So we can have this as a part of our package and a value addition to the clients. Next comes the parent company. When I say parent company, because what we are dealing with is a company which is coming into India and having its subsidiary. So we have to be very clear on the regulations which are going to have, which we have to comply with in this relationship between a parent and a subsidiary, like a GST, ATP. All these studies are very important because that will, because for them they are all not very clear. They just say, like what I told you earlier, this entire service is based on trust. So when we project ourselves, we are going to say that you please don't worry, we are going to take care of everything. When we say we take care of everything, first we have to be aware, we have to know what is there in store for us. And this TP study, this GST study is where we will get to know the entire client business, how they are going to manage business in India, what is their projections in India. All that we will be able to help them out. At the same time, we will also know what is in store for us. Similarly, ECB guidelines, capital induction, when to go for ECB, when to go for capital, or whether we can bring it. Say for a small example, it's a small setup, say only 3 employees or 4 employees are there. They want to purchase a laptop. How can we structure that? Should it be a capital induction for that? Or should I have to go the pains of FCGPR filing and all the other RBI compliances? Or there is a better way. So we can design that for them. Or if we can tell them, okay, you give me a 6 months projection. What is that? What is going to be your capital budget? What is that you are going to plan other than your normal revenue expenses? So what we can do is we can plan them and tell them, okay, whether to go for ECP or for capital. This is where we can play a major role. Even though this is very simple, we just miss out on all this. But when we tell them in advance, hey, these are all there, we can help you out in this, they really appreciate this particular thing. Next slide, please. Selecting a banker. We already discussed on all this. So just again, I'm reiterating the fact. Let us only propose the banks. The clients can themselves, since they are well versed in web and everything, they can do a Google search. They can go to the websites of a bank, and they can themselves decide which bank they want, and we can work with them. Similarly, we should also tell them that the bank, when the money is remittance is done, it has to be in foreign currency. Because of GST regulations, very clear, it has to be in foreign currency and not in Indian rupees. Similarly, the exchange rate control, because the banker also plays an important role, because he is going to be your authorized banker. He is going to be your AD banker. So a dealer, as an authorized dealer, he plays an important role in this entire service, because the much better he is working, the much lesser headache is for us. Next slide, please. Progress. So umbrella service, like what we were discussing, or what we are discussing already now, it is not one single service. It's not just rendering a professional service alone. It involves coordination among various teams, internal and external. So when we say umbrella service, let us not say that, okay, it is only one CA firm. No, inside the CA firm and outside the CA firm, it involves a lot of coordination. That is why we call it as an umbrella service. Clarity of process and timing. Sri, I think you can take it over.
Thank you. Also, if any of us are going slow and you want us to speed up, please post it for us. We will speed it up. This is the per chart for incorporation. So one of our articles, Shreyas, has prepared this. He's made it nice and interesting. What we already know, and when we are even explaining this to a client, client understands what we want to tell them better. So the DIN at the time of incorporation itself, they will obtain. And filing, we need T+2 days, which means from today, if you give me all the documents, I'll tell I need 2 days to file a document. So DSC also, before incorporation itself, I can kick off this process. DIN I get with incorporation. Then incorporation documents to prepare and to vet it, and to ensure now this V3 portal is also working well. We will probably need 10 days time. Then we file the documents in 2 days, and then we tell that the incorporation can happen within 4 days. So the idea here is we have to give a visibility to a client how much time it is going to take for us when we take up the incorporation. We have typically advocated clients to go for the name approval first and then file for incorporation. Even though it is 1,000 rupees extra, you don't have the headache of preparing the documents again and again if the name is the one which is not going to go through. So file for name approval and then do the next steps of incorporation is a easier way and a faster way to do it. So on the statutory registration side, the PAN and TAN come along with incorporation. The PF and ESI also comes along with incorporation. PT in certain states come with incorporation, or it takes T+10 days. That is post incorporation, post opening a bank account. We can give the PT registration, if I'm not mistaken, because the bankers also, the PT department also requires the bank details and account opening formalities. So is with the case of GST. GST, they had told me without even account number, we can start off the registration process and then subsequently submit these details. I'm not too updated on that, but then these are the registrations. Whoever is handling on a day-to-day basis, you will know it very well. Then the bank account, the banker will say he will take at least minimum 10 days time for him to prepare all the documents and get it signed and then we have to submit all of these originals with the bankers. The apostille and notary process typically takes some time at the client's end. In COVID times, though, it was a no-go. We could not incorporate a lot of clients, companies, because that time we could not get these documents. That was a genuine problem that many of them faced. But today, things seem to be progressing faster. We believe that is how it will stay in the future also. Then the signing and submission we can do in T+7 days. Then we can go live in T+30 days. So where we are talking of an incorporation which can happen in 4 days, probably a banker and account opening is going to take the longest time. So what we usually do is, at the time of incorporation itself, once the client has signed off the engagement letter, we will start talking to the finance company of the foreign companies and tell them that these are the registrations, these are the bankers you can talk to, and they can talk, understand, keep all of the papers ready in parallel. And the moment the incorporation is done, they can go and complete the apostille and notary process. Because you will typically have a situation where somebody wants to start off in the India company, they want to issue an appointment letter, and then they want to make their first payroll through the bank account in India. That is where banking operations become important for us to make it operational as quickly as possible. This is mostly Gopal's slide. I'll only talk about the POSH and CSR bit. It might not sound critical, but again, as we are going to talk of the entire umbrella of services as a whole, these also are something that we need to take care of. Now, for a company with 1 or 2 employees, also POSH policy, they have made it a requirement. Only the ICC committee you need to form once there are 10 or more employees, and then you need to have the committee and appoint the external member and who are the presiding members. Those type of appointments are required for the POSH policy itself. And these internal committee members have to be someone who are there through the years. So there is a sort of a retainer requirement. You can offer this as a service. And POSH policy reporting requirement is there in the director's report also under the Companies Act. So you educate a client initially itself that such a requirement is there. Then the client also is going to work towards making it happen. So a lot of foreign clients are very specific about these. They take these laws very seriously. They're not going to give you a policy from Google, which they search and tell, okay, I have a policy. They, in fact, invest money in all of this and get a policy and appoint the members also very correctly. So this is one other source of revenue which we can think of. There are a lot of these institutions which do POSH certification trainings. Some of our people in the office have taken up this POSH certification, and then they, in my team, they advise my clients on what is required to be done. So if you have an young and energetic, enthusiastic kid in your office who wants to do something new, you can give this to them and tell, do POSH certification, and then we can offer this as a service to our clients. CSR is another very important thing that has picked up. Again, as we mentioned, foreign clients are very particular about using CSR money the right way. We can offer service where we can do pro bono work for the trust that they want to sponsor or the school that they want to adopt. There we can go do governance for those type of investment, the CSR funding, application of funds that the companies want to do. We can do it as a service with fee or without fee, that depends on us. So CSR, the moment we know transfer pricing billing is touching so much, and then there is a profit that the company has to set aside, we can start that education for our clients right from then itself. Follow the section 135 of the act, and they come up with a CSR policy. They come up with a committee where the committee is going to come to us with the projects, and they'll ask us to evaluate which is where we want to invest. All those things we can also add value as professionals.
Thank you, Sri. So I and Sri plan to have this slide, maybe something, maybe around in the last few slides, but we brought it in advance because we wanted to show certain things which have an impact in the next few slides, which I am going to discuss. As we already told, the client who is coming from outside India, one, they don't know what are all the rules, regulations. How is an accounting process in India? But the more challenging is they are very methodical. They if we say something, they want it to be by that. So we have to be very clear, and that is where what we are going to discuss right now becomes very important, which is a process manual. When I say process manual, what is it? It is basically documenting each and every process of the client as to how it is going to happen. Say for an example, let us take an employee claim. For an employee claim, say there is a 15 to 20 employee in India entity. Who is going to be the manager, reporting manager of the employee? How is the claim flow? What is going to be the flow of claim from the time he is going to deposit it with the company or he is going to submit it to the company, and then how the payment is going to get processed. So this entire end-to-end flow has to be documented, and it is important that we document and get it approved by the client. So what we do is every process we sit with the client, tell him, understand what he wants, what is the approval matrix he is looking for, because apart from trust, they are also very clear that in case of accounting in the case of accounting, there should always be a maker checker. So they don't want a person who is operating in India to be the only authorized signatory. So all this has to be taken into consideration, and we will have to have a proper process manual for each and every activity of the company. Now comes the payroll part. Payroll in US, for example, is a bi-monthly activity. So any company who comes from US, they will always say that, no, we want to run payroll twice. But please understand, in India, it is a generic that, or it's a general happening that it happens only at the month end. Processing payroll twice is not a big deal, but again, it adds to our activity. So we can educate him saying that the general rule in India is once a month. It's not that which is followed in US. We can follow it once a month. Then provision month end close. This is something.
Gopal, in fact,
yes,
where there is a double payroll, you in fact can bill a client 2 times for the
correct.
same month.
Correct. But again, the compliances, again, you will have to processes, all that has to be tracked, and we can depend upon, say, for example, if it's going to be a 15 to 20 headcount organization or a 25, 30 headcount organization, it is very well that we can do it twice a month. One thing is, it will not be so much of a big headache, and also you can bill it twice. But once the headcount increases, it becomes really a bigger problem. So we will have to manage it carefully. So when we do a packaging, we will have to be very careful on this particular aspect, like whatever we are going to commit on the payroll part, because it is employee related, and every foreigner is very sensitive towards employees' sentiments. So we have to be very clear on the payroll part. On the provision month end close, so on the provisioning part, what we generally do is we always tend to do an year-end provision. We do a recurring expense, whatever is coming, we account it, and generally we do a year-end provisioning. But we have to have a proper provisioning month-end close. So this in the process manual will be a separate activity altogether. How are we going to create provisions? Whether TDS is applicable, withholding tax is applicable, not applicable. They don't generally understand the concept of TDS, so they call it as withholding tax. So whether withholding tax is applicable, not applicable, how are we going to handle it? All that has to be clearly documented. And provision month close is a very important aspect. We will have to provide for each and every activity, because they don't generally appreciate any major deviances in a month to month. Because as we told already, it's going to be a simple setup. So if you take a normal setup, roughly around 90% or 95% to say of the cost will be payroll cost. The balance 5% of that 2 to 3% will be infrastructure, and balance will be the professional and other charges. So generally they don't appreciate any major deviance. So we have to be very clear when we create a provision, and we'll have to have a proper policy for that. The next one is difference between intern and employee. For a foreigner, it is not, they don't bother on that. But in Indian laws, it is very important that there is a proper, because an intern and employee, for them, employee is separate, intern is separate. But for us, intern and employee under PF, under ESI, under labor law, they generally are one and same, and there are exemptions to interns only when they satisfy certain conditions. So we have to tell them very clearly, please understand the difference between intern and employee, and the compliances are there for interns also. He is not that just because he is an intern, he can be paid whatever it is. So we have to be very clear in telling the difference of that also. Next slide, Sri. These are very few terminologies, like what I told, TDS, withholding tax. These are some of the terminologies which we will have to educate the client. For example, state tax and federal tax. So in US, you have a state tax, you have a federal tax. In India, except for certain labor, everything else is a common national tax. Say, for example, income tax, they have a state income tax and a federal. But here we will have to tell them, in India, it is one tax. So it's income tax per se, and you will have to educate them. Similarly, provident fund, they don't generally understand what is provident fund. It is similar to the social security fund or 401k, which they call. So we will have to tell them that a provident fund is split into pension fund and provident fund, and these are all the components. This is how it is calculated. So your pension, which is coming under provident fund, they have it separately as 401k. So we will have to educate them as to the social security fund and pension fund, and the provident fund. These are all one and same, but two different terminologies. Lakhs and millions. They don't understand lakhs. They only understand millions. So it is, we have to have our reports. We have to have our proposals. It's better to have it in millions, which they will be easy to understand. Else, what will happen is every time on the call, it will be this will be a separate topic of discussion. They will ask, Gopal, what is this? You have put 10 lakhs, it is 1 million, 10 lakhs. They don't understand that. So it is always better we have it in millions, which is easy for them to understand. AP, AR, month close. These are all some terms which they don't normally understand. We call it as a monthly close pack. So, like I told already, this entire service which we are going to offer, it is known to everyone. How is that we are going to package is what differentiate us from others. So we don't call it as we will give you profit and loss account, monthly we will give you balance sheet. What we tell them is we will give you a monthly pack. We will give a monthly close pack. This will have these and these components. So that is how we tell them. We will tell them, we will not tell them that, okay, you have complied with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll say that you have a dashboard in the monthly close pack. You can refer that. You will be able to know what is what. Data security. With this GDPR or whatever guidelines which has come now, it is a big headache, but still we have to ensure that the minimum data security is there. When I say data security, let me give you a simple example. Payroll data. Payroll data is very, very sensitive for any client, not only foreign clients, even for Indian clients, payroll data is very sensitive. So we should not, or we should avoid sending payroll on emails. What we have to do is we have to create a secure cloud space, upload the payroll data there, and give the access to the client. Apart from that, what we do is the password for that particular file which is uploaded in the drive, we send it separately through WhatsApp or an email, which means that a person who is having access to the mail alone will not be able to access the payroll data. Like that, we should have certain sensitive, because they are very sensitive to data. In fact, in my experience, we were verge of losing clients because of this data security. So we have to be very careful when we talk on this data, and we have to emphasize to them that we are 100% secure. Your data is secure. There is no leakage of data possible. If at all, if it is possible, it is beyond the control of anyone. So we have to be very clear when we tell them that. Sri, you want to add anything here, Sri, on the data security?
Gopal, if you remember, one of the articles had shared the passport copy of the director on WhatsApp, and the client had lost their cool. How can you send us documents for verification on WhatsApp? Where is the security measure and those type of things? So even though WhatsApp is a very popular tool of communication today, it is not very much appreciated with foreign clients. So we cannot be sharing documents even over, let alone WhatsApp. Even on email, our clients don't want us to send attachments. They will create a secure link and they want us to upload only on that. That is the sort of data security which they expect today.
And just to emphasize here, the article who shared the passport, the client was so angry, he was asking that how is my data available to everyone in Guru and Jana? That is the level of security they are expecting. So we have to be very clear. So as a package, what we do is we tell them specifically to the directors alone, we'll be very clear that only who are the people who are going to handle this data. So, and also we don't entertain, even though Gurujana is a family, we don't entertain any other members accessing data of other clients. Their clients, they will be only able to access. So that is the level of data security we should have. PST, EST, Central, these are the time zones which you have to be very clear. Like PST, EST itself, there is a lot of difference. I have got mixed up a lot of times in these time zones, especially when they call for meetings. I get mixed up with all this. So we have to be very clear because they are all time sensitive. So because when they fix a time, they want us to be there on the time. So when we mess up with all this, it creates a bad image of us, especially during the meetings. Initially.
In fact,
Yes.
tomorrow one client has asked me to set up a call. I don't know, it was today to 1:30 or it is tomorrow 1:30. So the time zones in these foreign countries are very hard to understand. At least European countries are still okay, I feel, but US has so many time zones. Even Google cannot understand sometimes.
Especially with this, what is that they call this time extension setting up in 1.5 hours, they set up the time. So earlier it will be, if you talk in June, July, 10 o'clock is now 8:30 for them. So that is how the time zones are. So you have to be very careful. Initials, this is one thing which they never understand. In fact, it was because the audit just got over last month, and we had to have the financials signed. For one of the clients, I personally spent half an hour explaining to them why an initial is required. First of all, the client didn't understand what is initial. They said, my name is so and so. What is that you want to do? I sign like this. I had to explain to them saying, okay, this is signature. Initial means short signature. And they were, in fact, to make them understand and to make them sign all the pages of financials, it took me half an hour for me to tell them all this. So we have to be clear. They don't understand initials. It is better we use short signature. SPOC is single point of contact. I'm going to cover it subsequently. So we will take it up that point of time. Accelerator, bootstrap angel, convertible note. These are all some of the funding methodology which we can tell them, which we can educate them in advance in case they will be well aware of this, but in case if they want to take advantage of all this, they can take it. Next slide. Administrative rights. Oh, this is very, very important, because each and every portal today, we are moving to a digital world. India is moving towards digitalization. So your GST portal, your RBI, even your professional tax, TDS, all that has become digital now. Each one has a website, you have a login ID, password. So we have to be very clear who is going to have the administrative rights. We generally say that it's the client who should have it. It is a client who has the login ID, who has the password. We get it from the mobile numbers which are there is of the clients. The email ID which is quoted in any of these portals is always, we prefer that it to be of the client's thing and not of us, because this adds a level of transparency and they appreciate it. So they want to know everything. So we are very clear that any mobile number or anything which is required in the portal, it belongs to the client. Licenses, accounting and payroll, even though like what we told, we are going to drive this entire package through technology. So there is an accounting and a payroll tool or subsequent tools which are required. We generally take the licenses in the name of the client, because for two reasons. One, the payment they will have to make. Number two, at the time of transition, say tomorrow the client is going to move out, he doesn't have to worry about. He just has to remove our names and add the names of the people whom he is going to appoint in future. So licenses, as a rule, it will be on the client's name. Bank maker. So this is very clear. It's a maker, not a checker. So bank maker, we always tell them that you be the checker, you be the approver or verifier. Let the maker be Guru Anjana. For one simple reason, I'll give a simple example. Let us say we put him as a maker. So there is a payment which is coming and he will immediately upload it and he will approve it also. But the problem there is a withholding tax there is a GST requirement, RCM requirement. So what we tell them is, you please make us as the maker, you be the verifier. We will send you the documents, we will send you the calculations, we will send you the payment amount. You just verify it, we will upload everything. So we have to be very clear that it is always better, advantageous for us to be the maker and they be the checker. But please understand, let all the rights of verifier and approver be with the client or client designated person, not generally with us. Who is an employer of Indian company as per regulation? Shri, you want to add something on this, Shri? On the employer company of India regulation?
No, well, you can go ahead.
Okay. So who is an employer for India company as per regulation? So we have to be very clear. Employer for India company as per regulation is going to be the Indian company, Indian Private Limited, which has been incorporated in India. We have to be very clear on that. It cannot be the foreign entity. It cannot be the holding company. We will have to emphasize on that, because sometimes what they do is they will appoint their employees here who will be working from here. Then it will trigger PE issues. So we have to be very clear with them, saying that in case of an employer, it is going to be the Indian company. But one thing which we'll have to be very clear is also that the authorized signatories, say for example for PF or say for PT, it will be one of the directors or one of the employee, maybe the CFO, CTO, who is there of the company. So for labor regulations, the employer is going to be the Indian company. So that we will have to be very clear. Next slide.
Yeah. One common mistake all of us are known to have made in the past is give our number, give our email IDs for all these approvals. So please, let's avoid. Let us ask the client to take a India SIM, have a mobile dedicated for this, and then let them be receiving the messages or whatever updates they need to receive. Let us not give our numbers and get stuck here. And if they want a foreign HR director or manager to be the one signing all the appointment letters and documents here in India, then let us pass those express resolutions and give the rights to the people who want to sign it off. Clearly India company letterhead, but the foreigner wants to sign, okay, but let us document that it is discussed hereby that this person is going to sign these documents. That way, make it clear. Authorization matrix can be given, who's going to sign what, who's going to have what approval, banking wise, what limits we will all have. Those things can be defined.
Next slide. So this is we are coming to the main area, like what are all the services we are going to offer. Like I already told you, the process. So first, what are the services? There are 4 types. I start from the right hand side top, which is accounting. So any umbrella service, the basis is going to be the accounting. So this is where we will have to concentrate more. This is where we will be packaging our services more. Say like creating a chart of account, creating an accounting policy, an SOP, what is a software to be used, which is going to be used in accounting. All that will be decided in this particular activity, and it is not only simple debit and credit. What I want to drive here is it's not a debit and credit which is accounting here. That any person can do. What is that we are going to value add is the processes which we are going to set for the client. It is not going to be a simple debit, credit, or ledger account expense or thing. We are going to set up a chart of accounts for them. We will define each and every ledger activity with a chart of account. Similarly, policies I already discussed a lot. So we will have a policy defined for them for each and every activity, and also the software. We will propose a software, but it is ultimately the client who is going to decide what is going to be the accounting software. Then comes the payroll, very important, very sensitive area, because coming from outside India into India, both the Indian employees as well as the foreign employer, the parent company, they expect so much. So it is very sensitive area. We will have to have a proper documentation for payroll. What is going to be the salary structure? When we meant breakup, it means the salary breakup or the salary structuring. What will be the best possible solution which can be given to the employees, leaves. And I want to add it to the salary structuring, because when Indian employees come from outside other companies, they would have add something called as an say R&D, like books and periodicals. So they might come and ask this company saying that this employer saying that I add in my earlier company books and periodicals. Why is that not given here? So let us be very clear. There are let us have a proper salary structuring. I have in the experience, in the short experience which I have had, the companies, especially the foreign companies, they are very clear that their salary structure has to be having the least minimum complications, including documentation as well as from the tax side. So we don't have to have a fancy structuring, not required. It can be the minimum structuring, which is best possible solution for the company. Then leaves, this is very important.
In fact, Gopal, there are clients where they wanted to give gym allowance, books and periodicals allowance, and whole lot of allowances that are not listed under the income tax law at all. And they said they were okay to take the risk.
Yep.
There were some brilliant HRs who joined the company and they thought that we'll do tax savings, but eventually they understood nothing is there, or they've received notices from the tax authorities. So if it is the client's call here, you only have to tell what is the law, and they can take a call on what is the risk aptitude they have in structuring the salaries. But today it is very straightforward.
So again here, like what she told, whenever there is a client input, please always document it. So your payroll structuring, again, the structuring part is our value addition. Approval part is always of the client. Similarly, leaves, please explain to them the Indian policy on leaves, the Indian law requirement of the paid leaves, the national festival holidays, and explain to them how it can be mapped. Approvals, same thing what I told you right now. What should be the payroll approval matrix? Who has to approve the payroll? They are all very, very sensitive information, because they don't want one employee or even the CPO or the CEO of the company knowing the payroll. So we have clients who want the payroll only to be approved by them sitting in US. They don't want the local CEO or CTO to know the payroll structure. So this is the level of confidentiality which they are expecting. So we have to be very clear when we are documenting the payroll process. Similarly, the software to be used, again, it is a proposal from our side. We can tell them, okay, we can use Great HR, we can use payroll software or all that.
Zoho, Darwin Box, KK,
Let us be
whatever.
very clear on this particular aspect, because some of the companies, when they come, they want ADP. Absolutely fine. What is that we have to do is we'll have to discuss with them and tell them how it will be useful or not useful, or how it will be advantageous for the India structuring. So we'll have to be very clear on that. Corporate law, again, we will have to have a clear dashboard as to what and all are the meetings which are required, when it is required, tell them when in advance, responsibilities, what is our responsibility going to be for with regard to the corporate law, because all the signings, all the approvals are going to be from the client side. So we have to be very clear what is going to be our responsibilities, and also educate the client on penalties and risk. One thing which I have already seen is they always convert the penalties what we have into dollars. Even an 1 lakh rupees penalty, when converted into dollar, is small for them. $1,000, $1,200, it's only $1,200. But they are not understanding the other penalty and risk which are associated. For example, a simple non-holding of a board meeting, it can become disadvantageous to the directors, because then they cannot be directors of the company. So all that we will have to educate them. It's not only the money part, it is also the risk associated to that, which we will have to educate the client properly there. Similarly, then coming the last, which is the most tedious part, the compliances. When I say tedious, TEDIOUS, that tedious. So GST, TDS, PF, PT, ESI, again, when we are going to package it, this is where it will help us to differentiate and tell them that, hey, we are going to take care for you for all this, and that is why we are packaging it in this manner, and this is what we are going to charge. So these are all the service offerings which we can package it, customize it. Again, like what we saw in the earlier slide, all this we are doing. There is nothing new we have told on all this. We are just going to see how we are going to package it and provide it to a client. Next slide, please.
So the next slide is the most important one, the Chatri slide, which is where we are giving what is the umbrella we all are talking about from that time.
So like you can see here, we already discussed. So if you see on the left hand side corner, this is what the service providers which the client has to deal with. Say a firm for valuation, an indirect tax firm, a GST expert, a payroll expert, then an accounting person, then an auditor. So please understand the pain which he has to go through dealing with each and every one. So this is where we are going to pitch in. This is where we are calling it as an umbrella policy. What we are going to say to them is, hey, you please relax. You concentrate on your business activity. All this we are going to plan. We will take care of it. That is what we are calling it as an umbrella policy. Like what I told, we will cover them up we will cover them from all the compliance aspects, all the accounting aspects, and as an umbrella. That is why we have named it as an umbrella policy under a single roof. That is what we call as an umbrella. It's a pain for the client, but we are the painkillers for them. So that is where we are going to project it. The next slide, please.
So the Manjunath sir is asking that it will help for the participants if we share this presentation. Definitely, we will leave it with Suraj, and he's going to host it on the ICA portal for all of you to have this presentation available. In fact, this umbrella services, we didn't crack it in one go. We took 10 years time for us to evolve and get here. I have known when we started the practice, corporate law practice was just 1 or 2 company secretaries that we were working with. And today we have about 25 company secretaries and a large team of 75 people who are just there for us to render services on the secretarial front. The idea is not that we are taking away the work of CS professionals, but it's just that we have made it easier for our client to render services, and we will only be the single point of contact that way. And then welcome Manjunath sir. And the other thing is talk about the labor services. Labor services was something up until April 2022 we were not rendering as a firm, because labor always gave us this bad taste that it's a corrupt place for us to go and handle. But then there are compliances side of things that we can add value. You can have a labor lawyer within you. The labor lawyer can work with you and then train a team of few people, and then with the Excel sheets we can create those registers under law which is required, and simple packaging again here. So come to corporate law, we were not doing HR services, the labor law services we were not doing. And then we came up a unique requirement of a client telling, see, we are only going to be 8 to 10 people. Can you also give us a HR? We were more than thrilled. What we started as 8 people company. Today we are doing HR outsourcing operations for a company which is as big as 300 people. So do you ask me if HR is our core function? No, HR is not our core function. But I believe if we have cracked the CA exam, anything that you give to us and throw at us, we will be masters at it. So the HR process side of things also, we did it. And one more very strange requirement came up to us where the client said, can you give us IT support services? We have a fabulous IT team. They also took up technology aspect of it. And then we have ERP implementations that clients wanted. The ERP implementation team is as infant as 2 years old in the organization. So every service which we are telling is an umbrella package. We have evolved over a period of time in understanding what the client needs and what we can add as value to the firm.
So what we want to try to drive the fact here is it's not that on the first year of a service or a first year of packaging, you would have to have all this ambit of services. It's over a period of time we have evolved. So we can start with a policy, we can start with a package and evolve ourselves to cover all the requirements of a client. That is what we want to drive it here. Next slide.
And eventually everything is come to the billing model of what Gopal was initially talking about. Any client which comes to you for India services can have a potential billing of 20 lakhs a year. You just service 2 to 5 clients and then your revenue is going to be substantial as a firm, what you can offer as a service. Definitely you have to build these knowledge and experience and expertise as you go. But today partnership between firms, mergers, or joining hands is very common. And it is also common not just in the service space, in the technology space also we can join hands and help our clients achieve the best out of the services that we can render.
So now we are going to come to the more important aspect, like what we were talking about is this is on the building model. So we have talked about various services we are going to render. We talked about incorporation, GST compliance, accounting, blah blah blah. We talked about all these services. But how is that we are going to build them? How is that we say that we are going to project it as a package? How is that we are going to project it as a package? How is that we are going to enable to get from a small client a value addition by which we can earn a 20 lakh billing per annum? So the main first point which we'll have to do is understanding of your client. This is very important. What happens is this also has come, like what she was telling, each and every aspect which we are discussing today is based off out of our experience in the past few years or 10 years of service which we are rendering. So initially we used to quote, we used to have a small discussion with client. We didn't have a process per se as an understanding of client. But over a period of time, it evolved that we have to have this process. A simple example I will say, when a client comes and says that, like we say, our target is going to be a clientele who is having a headcount of 15 to 20 employees. So a client, when he comes into India, set up a business, he is not going to have 20 employees at the initial stage. It will be over a period of time. So he will start with saying that I am having 2 employees now. Assuming that with that word we go and bill him, it will be an underbilling because over a period of next 3 to 4 months, he will be having his headcount increasing and our service requirements also increasing. So we will have to be very clear in understanding the client. What should be our question? This is what we will have to see. We will have to have a call with the client. We will have to understand what is his business model. What is his projection for next 6 months? The reason being that we cannot keep on coming back in saying that, hey, I billed you for, I initially projected for 2 employees. Now we have 10 employees. My work has increased. Now I want to increase the fees. It will not look professional. It will not be appreciated. So we will have to have a call with them. We will have to have an initial understanding call. Val will say that what is their next 6 months projection? What is their next 1 year projection? What is going to be the employee mix? When I say employee mix, because they can have an employee, consultants, interns, and each and everything as a level of service requirement. So we will have to ask them what is their employee mix, who is going to be a statutory auditor. This is a very important question because your year-end activity, the time spent on your year-end activity by all your teams, what we listed, your payroll, your accounting, your corporate law, your labor law, all the times involvement is decided on this at the year-end. A big four and MNC firm, they minimum take out of 1 to 2 months of a time. So it is always better to have in upfront who is going to be the statutory auditors of the company. Next slide, please.
And Gopal, when you're
Yes,
talking of the billing model, which you want to discuss in the next few slides, also touch on the 13th month billing that we can do, because that
Yes.
itself also is an important matter.
Yes, Shri. Right. Pricing methodology. Like once we understand the flow of thing will be, once we understand the client, we send a questionnaire to them. Once the clients fill up the questionnaire, we have a call with them. Once again, understand the questionnaire, and then comes our pricing methodology, or nothing but our proposal. So we are going to be very clear. We are going to have a pricing methodology which is going to be a little bit higher, because it is not going, we are going to offer them, we are going to package them all the services. It is not going to be a small a one-time service or a small service. So we have to be very careful when we are projecting us. So we are split it into three. One is the one-time cost. When you say one-time cost, it will be your incorporation, your statutory registrations, salary structuring, TP study, your agreements, GST study, your valuations, like for valuation for bringing in capital into India, HR documents which is required, capital remittances, what is to be capitally budgeted, or what it has to be a revenue budgeting, capital budgeting, your GST structure, how it has to be. All this we will project it as a one-time cost. Based on our understanding with the client, we can still add everything, and put a value for its XXX, and arrive at a one-time cost. So what I'm trying to emphasize here is, we need not put each and every value for each and every service we're going to perform here. But the important aspect here is, under the one-time cost, you would have to list out all the services which are there. It might be small. Say, for example, an HR documentation might be a small aspect, but still it is better to list out, and then at the end arrive at the total price. And we are going to tell them that, okay, this is going to be your one-time payment. Here, one more important aspect, you can also have the policy documentation or your accounting documentation, also a part of your one-time cost, like a business understanding. All that can be added here and put a cost to it, and then arrive at a one-time cost. This is going to be a one-time. We will have to be very clear on that. This is going to be the monthly cost. So if you see here, like what I already told, we will be rendering services like, say, accounting. We'll be filing a GST return, say, for 10,000 rupees. We will be filing a GST refund application, say, 50,000 rupees. We will be filing corporate, we'll be doing secretarial services, say, for 10,000, 15,000 rupees. But here we are going to package it in such a manner that we are going to tell the client, these are all going to be our monthly services. And if you say my monthly services all put together is going to be a lakh of a rupee, it will raise his eyebrows, because it is going to be a big value. We are not going to stop there. We are going to tell them that it's going to be a lakh of rupee annualized to, say, 12x. If that so be the case, say, for example, let us take an example, it is going to be a lakh of a rupee, so 12 lakhs. So if you divide it by 80, roughly around what, maybe around say 7, 10, 15, maybe around, maybe even if he's going to have it in-house in his company, he is going to spend around 70,000 rupees, 75,000 rupees for an employee. That also, along with that, he has to have an external consultant. Along with that, we don't know when he is going to be there, when he is going to resign. But here we are going to project that we will be rendering all these services with a continuity aspect. Like, he need not be bothered whether someone is going to be there, not going to be there. His compliances, his accounting, his book closure is going to happen, and the annualized cost of it is so much. Next slide.
Here,
Yes.
in fact, we can gather the idea that providing resident director services and registered office is also one of the other billings that we can add on to our revenue system. But the provision of registered office today has raised eyebrows with the PT officials and GST officials. Be careful which office you are going to give for the client. If you're going to give your own building, then you will have a certain limit on the registrations, and you have to make sure you're displaying the board, the GST number, the address, all of those things clearly. So one definite thing is, yes, it is a billing model, but two is, please make sure that you comply with the regulations that are required under law, and not just bill a client for providing the registered offices. In fact, for a director who is a resident, you will not be able to do a whole lot of other functions. So as a partner of the firm, if you are becoming the resident director, which I have seen is is a practice in some of the firms, you are at a large risk on few things. So personally avoid this. But if you want to build it as a practice, have someone else who is going to do this for you, and you build the client for all of that.
And adding to that, we can add our labor law services or HR services. Labor law is already there, sir. HR services can be added. So a whole gamut of monthly costs can be added and annualized and shown to them, saying this is the entire gamut of your end-to-end compliances which we are going to manage for you. Next, annual cost. So here where you have a lot of your GST annual returns, your IT filing, your FLA returns, coordination with the auditors. So let us be very clear, we can never do audit services like what I told earlier. It is a conflict of interest. So it is better always to tell them, we will not be involved in this activity due to our independent issues. We can only give a rough estimate. You can connect it with a panel of auditors or with the auditors whom they want to, and they will directly take it up with them. So to the best of us, we can only give a budgeted number, but we have to be very clear saying that we don't have an influence on this number. But on the other service, where an annual cost can be billed is like FLA returns, income tax returns, GST returns, not audit, GST returns, audit coordination. Now, that is what she was telling earlier. And I also drive on that point that in case if it is going to be a big four, an MNC firm or any other big auditor, we would have to spend a sufficient amount of time. Even though we do a monthly compliances, even though data is going to be properly organized, which is one of the important aspects. But the fact is that for an audit coordination, it really requires at least a minimum of a month's time from us to close the audit. So in that case, that is also a billing model for us. So we generally say maybe a 31 month of our service cost will be towards audit closure or audit coordination. This includes right from coordinating with auditors, giving whatever schedules you want, clarifying his queries, coordination with the company for signing of financials, or in case the auditor wants any specific business related queries, then coordinate with the company and the auditor. All that forms part of this service, and we have added it and we bring it as an annual cost. So what we have
So
done
in
is,
fact, Gopal, none of our clients have shown resistance to paying this 13-month
yes,
cost, because what we have done is we have done a clear, this 13th month effort that is required from us. There is a clearly documented documentation which we've given to our clients and tell them these are the year close activities, and that is why there is a 13-month cost. They have only asked why, and once we've justified, they've been comfortable with it.
so just driving on that fact. So our proposal will contain the list of activities under each and every service. Even when I say, see, can you just go to the previous slide? I just want to explain one fact there, which will be of importance. When we say accounting service, we don't say that accounting we are going to charge so much. Under accounting, we will be bifurcating them the various services. For example, accounts payable, revenue recognition, withholding tax compliances monthly basis, then your book closure, then
MIS reporting,
compliances with the accounting policies. So all that can be listed out. So we have to be very careful when we are doing this. Let us not undersell. Please understand, once you sell it, this is going to be a long-term activity. It will be very difficult for us. Say, for example, instead of quoting a lakh of rupees, which based on our experiences, the clients have agreed to, when we quote 50,000, please understand, for that to increase to 1 lakh will take another 3 to 4 years. So let us not undersell, because there is so much work involved in this and so much expectation from the client, because we are going to be the central point of contact. We are going to be the single point of contact. So there is so much expectation, so much service requirement from us. So let us never undersell in this particular aspect. We have to be very careful when we are quoting it. And also when we quote it, that is why if you see the last column, which is annualized, we give them an annual cost of adding the one-time cost. Then we will give them what is the monthly annualized cost. And then we will give them what will be the annual cost. And total put together, what is that they can expect at the first year of service. This will be the cost which they can expect. So we will be very clear and transparent when we send this out to them as a proposal. Next slide, please. Before going into this, one more important aspect which we'll have to dwell upon is the exceptions, which we didn't see here, exclusions basically. We have to be very clear when we are quoting to the client, because we are going to do the end-to-end compliance. We will have to clearly specify what are all excluded from this. For example, a simple department procedure handling or a notice handling from the department, because those are all involve a lot of time and effort, which cannot be covered here, and which we will not be able to project in advance, because each and everything, the complexity of it, we will come to know only when we get a notice. So we will have to be very clear to have our exclusions clearly defined, and this has helped us in lot of manner. For example, a simple refund application. For example, let us take one thing which is happening right now, the GSTR 9C. Earlier, it did not have so much work to do, but this year you have around, I think, 12 to 15 reconciliations which has to be done before a GSTR 9C has to be filed. This can never would have been contemplated in our monthly compliances. So we will have to be very clear when we are saying that any change in law, if it is going to increase our work, it will be part of our exclusions. Similarly, valuations. It is a very big exercise per se, and it is an expert domain. So let us put it very clearly, because they will come and say that, okay, you are doing me, you are handling my accounts, you know whatever I have, you know my profitability, so please please give me a projected financials. No, that will not work out. So we'll have to be very clear what is going to be our exclusions. So, and what is that we are going to exclude from our monthly billing. That we have to be very clear. Sorry, next slide.
No, very valid point, Gopal. In fact, like how we have documented the 13th month billing points, the exclusions also is an elaborate document, and we make it a point to take our client through those points. And we can't assume that the client has read our engagement letter. We take efforts to help the client educate about what are the exclusions.
So even though we send our proposals through email, we will have a call with the client, even though he has agreed. Even post agreement, agreeing to our proposal, we will have a call. We will walk through the entire engagement letter one by one, explaining once again everything, so that we are very clear as to what is our responsibility and role. Next comes the technology part. This is very important. As I told you, we are going to cover an entire gamut of service. So doing it manually will be not only an headache, it will also be very time consuming. We will not be able to comply with the requirements of client. For example, some of my clients who are in US, they want the book close on 31st, which is tomorrow. This month, they want the book close happening today. I have some clients who say on 1st I need, on 3rd I need. So if you see, because they have their own regulations, consolidations, they have their own accounting things. So we'll have, without technology, it will be very difficult for us to adhere to the timelines. At the same time, to have a proper, a value added service to them. And a technology also reduces our errors. So we have to be very clear when I say softwares or tools. Say, for example, what is going to be the accounting tool, Zogo, NetSuite, Oracle, SAP. We will propose them depending upon what is there. Because some of the clients, when they come from US, they immediately start with NetSuite and SAP. They are going to have 2 employees, and it will be not cost effective to have a SAP or NetSuite, which will be more than their payroll cost. So we will have to educate them, tell them what and all is there, what is, because they always come with the mindset that, okay, NetSuite, I will have control. Even a software like Zogo, which is in India, has a control which they wanted. So we have to educate them, be very clear on what are the softwares we are going to use, because this will have a major impact on them. We are going to use it. They are just going to subscribe for that. The headache of using it, the going into each and everything, and in fact, if it is a NetSuite, even a normal cash flow, we will have to do it and give it manually, because NetSuite format is something. Similarly, accounts payable, all that, it is better we tell them what is what and be very clear on that. Integration with US accounting tool, again, this is another thing. If they have, say, for example, earlier it was QuickBooks, now QuickBooks is going out of India, but earlier if they had QuickBooks, it was advantageous, or it was preferable that we also use QuickBooks, because they understand QuickBooks online, and it will be easy for us to, it is easy for them to consolidate. So similarly, admin rights. Always, like I told you, license will be in the name of the company, and also the primary admin will be the company person. It will never be from us. We will have to be very clear on that. Not only for the transparency angle, even tomorrow for anything, it will be easy for us to transition. So it is always better the admin rights, it has to be clearly defined. Similarly, Great HR or KK or ADP or its rights. Each one has its own advantages, disadvantages, pain points. So we have to be very clear what is that we are going to suggest them, what is that we are choosing, why we are choosing. See, a person who is coming from foreign, he might have his own ideas, but we will have to drive the fact that for Indian law, what is better for them. Because we are going to work with the payroll team, we are going to work for everything. It has to be easier for everyone to use. So we'll have to have a proper discussion with the client for understanding the tool. Similarly, OneNote. Like I already told you, like we generally don't send, for example, payroll data. We don't generally send it on emails. We have OneNote. So we upload the documents there. Then we give the access to the client. Client downloads it. Similarly, MIS. So we upload it in OneNote. We don't send it on emails. It is client who will go to the OneNote, see it. So all these repository tools, it is better to have a discussion, because some of the clients may prefer Google Drive. OneNote is a Microsoft product. Some might prefer Google Drive. It's okay. Some might prefer Dropbox. Depending upon what is that they are convenient with, it is always okay, but it is always better to define it at the beginning of the engagement. What is that depository going to be? Similarly, payroll access rights. This is very, very important, because sometimes what we do is we have experienced this. The Indian director, since he is going to be the sole person who is responsible in India, he over enthusiastically says that, okay, send me the payroll. We would have sent it to them, but now the problem starts there, because now the holding company will come and ask, how is that a payroll is shared with the Indian director? Who has authorized it to be shared? It has to be shared only with the group HR. How is that the Indian director comes to know of other people's salary? This is the level of confidentiality which a foreign company expects. So we have to be very clear who is going to have the payroll access rights, because again, it is not going to be through email. It is only going to be through the depository which they are going to give. Next one is the bank upload access. Again, very clear, we are only going to be the uploader. It has to be very clearly defined. We have to be the maker. It solves a lot of our issues. Similarly, with regard to the payments, we'll be very clear. GST and government portal OTPs, portal email IDs, what it is going to be. For example, when I say email IDs, like what we generally advise the client is, you can have an ID called accounts at XX company in your domain, and you can add it to the portal. What will happen is, we can have the access to that. You can also have access to that, so that what will happen is, it will not go to an individual name tomorrow, because what happens is, even at the client side, if it is going to be an individual, tomorrow if the individual is going to resign, it will create a challenge, because we have to go and change in each and every statutory portal the email ID. So we advise the client, say compliance at your company's name, or accounts at your company name, or finance at, create an ID, give that ID for all your statutory compliances portal, so that it is easy to handle, and there is no question of frequent changing of that. DocuSign, ZogoSign, they are very conversant with DocuSign. ZogoSign is similar to that, because they generally prefer signing it digitally rather than a physical signature, because whenever it is going to be a wet signature, please understand, it takes time for them. So they say that you will have to fix at least a week's advance notice for me to do a wet signature. This is what we have experienced with foreign clients, because they at least need 7 days notice in advance if it is going to be a wet signature. So we generally prefer a digital signature, either a DSC or a DocuSign. Similarly, signature on all pages. I already discussed this in some slides back, saying that to make a client understand that they have to sign all pages of financial, it took me around half an hour, because for them, it is only that 4 pages they have signed where the names are mentioned. They are asking, in the other pages, names are not mentioned, in the notes, in the schedules, the names are not mentioned, why I should sign. Then I have to send them the corporate law, the Companies Act provisions, tell them that, hey, this Companies Act requires so and so, so you have to sign everything. Then they went back and saying, last year you didn't do, current year, why are you asking? So we have to be very clear. At the beginning, you will have to tell them, okay, these are all the points there. This and all will require, because they will say, can you do a DocuSign? A financial statement or a bank never accepts DocuSign. But they will say, no, in US they are accepting. Why in India? You have to be very clear, saying for banks, for certain documents of statutory increments like financials or your other documents, you need a wet signature. Let us tell them in advance. Next slide, please. Yeah. So I was talking about accounting tool. I thought I could discuss on what should be there in accounting tool, which is generally expected by any client. One, a cloud-based tool, because any system-based tool, the challenge here is, if a client wants to see a data, it will never be online, because we will have to send the backup to him, and the date on which you send the backup, that is the timeline which he has. Suppose that if you have updated something, then it will be difficult for him to review that. Say, for example, a simple like an audit close. We do the year close in March. Maybe the audit happens in April, May. And surely at the time of audit, there will be there will be at least minimum 1 to 2, 3 to 4 audit entries. So all those audit adjustments, we will have to tell them, we will have to be, if it's a cloud-based tool, it is advantageous because the version which they will be having will be a pre-audited version. The version which we will be adding will be an audited version. So it will create unnecessary confusion. So it is always preferable to have a cloud-based tool. Again, all this what we are going to discuss is what we are going to tell the client. It is ultimately to the client to decide what accounting tool he wants. But what in general is expected is what we are discussing here. Similarly, mobile access. Say whether the accounting tool can be accessible in his mobile. Whether he is able to see that in his mobile is a very important aspect. Then what are all the modules there? Say when I say modules, like your vendor module, your revenue AR module, AP module, expense claim module, similarly your reporting module. These are all the modules. So how much it is, because they expect a various reporting, they expect various processes. So it is always better to go for a tool which offers many modules, which offers many support. Similarly, easy integration with APIs, outside APIs. Say for example, I was discussing regarding the direct cash flows. If an API is available, the tool is able to integrate it with it easily, then it will be a much advantageous tool rather than a tool which is non-integratable with an API. Similarly, there are a lot of reports which they later on come and ask, which is available with an API, and we will have to be able to integrate it with the accounting tool. So this is very important that the tool which we are going to have is easily integratable with external APIs. Scalable, customizable. Again, it is there are a lot of tools, accounting softwares which has a limit on vouchers. It is always better to keep in mind at least a minimum of 3 to 5 years of an company's growth in mind before selecting a tool. At least though not immediately, because maybe a company which is which is having a 2 employee, it will be very difficult to project that side. But at least a minimum 2 years level of where is that they are expecting, what is their growth be before selecting an accounting tool, because transition of an accounting from one software to another is a big headache altogether. So it is always better to have a scalable and customizable tool. Similarly, maker checker. This is very important because, like I already told you, trust plays an important part in this particular package altogether. We are always projecting that we are trustworthy, we are transparent, and in cases there is a maker checker, it adds to that value. It adds a value to that because a person is going to create and a senior or a different person is going to approve it. For example, as a process, any person who is going to create a liability, which is a vendor or an employee claims, that will not be the person who is going to handle the bank payments. This is one of the process which we have as a process in the company. So a person who is going to do an AP will never be doing the payment part. Similarly, a person who is going to upload payment, even though the OTP, for example, now you all know that for a maker there will be an OTP there. So what happens is the person who is going to upload the payment, he will not, his mobile number or his number will not be the number for which OTP will be generated. There will be one more person for whom OTP will be generated. We have a checklist which that person has to comply with before sharing the OTP. So these are some of the things which has to be there. A maker checker is similar aspect which I was just trying. It has to be there in the accounting tool to enhance the transparency. Similarly, activity logs. This is very important anyway from 1st April 2023. As per the company law, company act notification, this is compulsorily required, and audit log is required. So an accounting tool should 100% have an activity log, leave alone the statutory part. Tomorrow we would have to know who has gone and changed any voucher, who has gone and modified any voucher. Let it be even a valid reason, but we would need to know who has done it. So it is very important that we have activity logs. Similarly, regular reports readily available. For example, AR, AP, your normal MIS pack reports, these are all should be readily available in the tool which we are going to select. It should not be that the tool is there, then we'll have to download, once again prepare all the reports. Returns to be filed. You have your GSTR returns, TDS returns. It will be very good if your tool gives the input data for that. I fully understand that your tool might not be entirely compatible with the government website. No problem on that. At least the minimum level, we should have the input data which is directly downloadable from our accounting tool. Similarly, multiple branches. Like what we were discussing, a client can come into India, say he starts in Bangalore, then he might move to Hyderabad. So at that point of time, your tool should be able to support it. Say, for example, earlier QuickBooks Online, I can take it as an example, does not support a branch accounting model. So if you have to have a QuickBooks Online, because if he is going to go to a branch outside the state, he has to have a separate GST number. In QuickBooks Online, you will have to have a separate license altogether. That means you will have to work on 2 books, then you will have to combine the data into one when you are doing your MIS close, and then you will have to give the MIS to them. So we'll have to be very clear that it might not be immediately required, but we have to be clear when we are projecting, when we are having our accounting tool, that it has multiple branch model. Similarly, dashboards, a simple dashboard of how much is his profit, what is his AP, what is his AR, that should be readily available in the accounting tool. User rights based on roles. This is very important because a foreign client is very specific. A AP person should not know what is happening in AR. He is very specific on that. So whatever vouchers, even the expense vouchers, whatever comes is under the revenue stream. He doesn't want the vendor or the purchase person to know that. So roles defined, it's very important that who can see what has to be very clearly there. That particular facility should be there in the accounting tool. Similarly, supporting documents. This is very important for us because when we are doing an activity, like we have a lot of vouchers coming, like we have an AP voucher, we have employee claim. Assume that we have to do everything manually, like we have done it. Like we will create a voucher, then put the voucher number on the, or take a printout of the voucher, attach it along with the vendor bill, then file it in the file. A simple thing tomorrow when a client is coming and saying, say you are at your house, the client is coming and saying, hey, I need to see that voucher. We have paid 1 lakh rupees. Say, for example, let us take to ourselves. We have paid 1 lakh to you. Why did we pay it? I need the voucher immediately. At that point of time, if it's a physical document, it will be difficult for us to retrieve it and give it. If it's a supporting document, there are a lot of online tools, say Zogo, QuickBooks, NetSuite. We can attach the supporting documents there. So the advantage there is it has end-to-end of the transaction in a particular voucher. Say if you have a voucher, it will show you what is a withholding tax deducted, what is a GST which is there, what is the payment made, all that is there, along with what are the invoices which are there, who has approved it. So it is very important that your accounting tool has the supporting documents module there, so that we can attach with each and every voucher the supporting documents. This also helps us in the time of audit because it will be very easy for us to close the audit. And single platform for multiple needs, all this should be in one single platform. So that is what is very good for an account. And when we say of confidentiality, this is what I was meaning, a password vault. So what happens is, there are, like what we told, there are multifold websites, statutory websites available now, and there is a password. So an article clerk will not have access to this passwords. So we have a password vault where all the passwords are uploaded. If an article wants to upload any returns, if he wants to do anything, we just have to connect on Teams. He will come on Teams, he will open his, give the access of control access to us. We will go to this password vault. We will type the password of the password vault, select the client. The password will be automatically incorporated or imbibed in the website of the government. It will be in, I think he will not be able to copy paste it and read it. That is how it has been designed. So this password vault, user ID password is only with the seniors and other people. And this also is one of the value additions which we say to the client, that your data is secure, your password is not going out anywhere. This is what I was telling of the password vault. Once we go that, we'll take the screen access. Once we enter our password, automatically the password which is there for the client gets imbibed in the website of the GST portal here in the case. Now, if you remember earlier, I was saying that we are going to differentiate ourselves from others on the process point, because service, whatever I talk now on the accounting, filing, everything, everyone does. But what we are differentiating ourselves is few points. One is on the tools which we use. The other one is this dashboard, a monthly complaints dashboard. This is a very simple dashboard which our firm has created in the firm using Microsoft OneNote. So if you see here, it has all your monthly complaints, say for TDS. If a client wants, this we give access to the client also. So when a client wants, he doesn't even have to ask us. If he wants to know if the TDS compliances or the withholding tax compliance of the previous months has been complied with, or to what month it has been complied with, he just has to take this dashboard, run through this dashboard. It will give the entire data, including the challans and workings for the client. So this is a monthly, if you see the dashboard format, on the left-hand side, you can see financial year. Then with the financial year, you have monthly, quarterly, yearly, and client incorporation data. So the entire documentation of the client is this dashboard. Just to drive the importance of this dashboard, a due diligence which happened for one of our clients, we had completed it in 4 days. It's not a small client. It's a 1,000 turnover client, 1,000 crore turnover client. We completed the entire DD in 4 days. Even the DD team was very appreciative of this because they saved a lot of time. Whatever information we want, everything was available in the dashboard. They wanted TDS challenge because basically for any audit you take or a DD take, they will ask for all the challenge, all the compliances, all the workings. Everything is there in this dashboard. You just have to share this dashboard to them. They can take whatever they want to. So you will have monthly complaints. Next slide, please. Then you see quarterly compliances, which is your ETDS returns. One thing which are very clear is payroll, we don't upload generally data here unless and until the client says, okay, please go ahead, because payroll is very confidential. It is always in a separate drive and dashboard. What we enter here for payroll is only summary of the payroll. There is never the payroll which is entered here. Even that summary is password protected. Similarly, any payroll related document like your PF returns, PDF format of the PF returns, PF workings, PT workings, TDS workings, or TDS calculations and workings, all that are password protected and only shared with the client, even though it is uploaded in the dashboard. Now the quarterly compliances, again, you can see here, it lists out the entire quarterly compliances and you can see it in one view, what is done, what is not done. Next slide, please. Then the yearly compliance. What is your statutory audit? What are all the schedules required? What is for the income tax? What is required? Your PT annual registrations or GSTR compliances, all that are uploaded here. So for a client, as a package, he just has to see this and he is very clear that what has been done. And from our side also, every time you don't have to go share the data with client or any audit or any DD people or anyone, even in case of an tax officer coming and asking, we don't have to search anywhere. All that is available in the dashboard here. This is the dashboard. This is the value addition we were talking about, which we will have to package it, show it to the client saying, hey, this is what you will get at one touch. And this is accessible on his mobile also. This is accessible on his laptop or whatever he wants to. Next slide, please.
In fact, this is like a ready data room for the client, no, Gopal. Anytime
Yes.
any data they need is just around the corner. And this is going to help a lot tomorrow when diligences are going to happen.
That's what I told Sri. For a due diligence, we were able to complete it in 4 days, which is because this is the data room they were expecting. Next
So
slide.
again, this dashboard is something we've evolved to build.
Correct.
So if someone who is listening to our presentation is thinking we are giving away all our trade secrets, we are happy to share, because as an ecosystem, we evolve as a firm and all of us render good services is more business into India. That is the entire objective of being of service to our alma mater.
And there is nothing secret here, because whatever we have shown here, it is what we do day in, day out. It's just that we have structured it in such a manner, packaged it in such a manner that it is easily retrievable, easily available, and everyone can see it.
And we can package it as India Entry Service.
India Entry Service.
Now the myth of what is India Entry Service is broken. Srinivas sir was telling me, ma'am, nimge topic artha agilla estondu janake, if you had given the topic correctly, 600 people would have registered. Now we have 300 registrations. I said, sir, 300 registration on a New Year's Eve and night is fantabulous for us. He asked me to take a session tomorrow. I said, tomorrow I'm not going to take, sir. At least 29th I can trust our CS. They're all hardworking. We'll be working. But Friday night at the end of the year, we said, no, sir, we will not take.
So we have seen that there are certain safety instructions. Sri, you will take this, Sri.
I think they might have heard you for too long. So we are already more than 75% through our presentation. Rest all is again a recap and what more we can do. So the reason why we spend some time on all of it is, again, we reiterate what we said at the start. All of you know what we are saying. It is just that we are making you aware of it and then possibly giving you an angle how you can think what you can do better in the services that you're already offering. So safety instructions, your office being used as a registered office, please ensure the rental agreement is in place. The rental construct has to be very good. Ensure that you have a proper template which is vetted by a lawyer, and then 11 months only it should be, so that you don't end up into a registration. Harsha Sabna is telling you guys are amazing and the explanation is awesome. Thank you. You made us really happy, and it is definitely a booster because it is Gopal's first debut session. So we'll carry this with us. Then you being a director simpliciter, indemnity bond is important. Providing your name as a director is not the is the simplest thing you can do, but then back it up with indemnity agreement. If a fraud happens not because of you and some other reason, the law can't hold you responsible. So this indemnity agreement is important. So rental agreement template is important, indemnity agreement template is important, employment in firm roles and later transfer to company roles. So when you have not incorporated the company initially, then what can you come up with? You can take the employee on your firm name, help the company navigate through this process so that you can pay payroll to them, and they then later transfer the employee to the company. This is known to have been done. Again, this should be done with clarity process. In fact, a client came to me and asked me, what is the guarantee that you will transfer the company to us? If you are going to be the subscriber and you are going to be the director when you incorporate a company, what is the guarantee you will give my company back to me later? Why would I hold a client's company? What will I do with a client company? I only help them set it up. I only help them incorporate and then have all these agreements in place, which clearly tells a client I'm going to transfer it out also to them. Then single point billing for law firms work, clarity and transparency is required. A lot of law firms bill our clients by the hour. So typically who approaches us is also law firms from outside India telling my clients want to set up offices here in India, please help us. So at that time, we have to be very transparent in the billing methodology and everything that we follow and give a clarity to our client. And then statutory auditor conflict of interest. Let us not do shortcuts of wanting all the revenue for ourselves. There is a lot of business out there, and for everyone, there is lot more fishes to fry. So I know we both are vegetarians, Gopal and I, but still that's an example that I gave now. So don't do those matters which are conflict of interest, because you have to build walls everywhere. If you assume that you will do the accounting and then you will do the audit, but you will get it signed by someone else, all your communications are going out through emails. You can't build two domains, you can't have two Chinese walls, you can't have a whole lot of things that will separate out that. So why in the law says it for a reason, let us follow it in spirit and in law. We all are going to grow, because umbrella services, what Gopal was talking of, 100 clients that we could build, we could do it in a period of 4 to 6 years. It was genuinely possible without us doing the statutory audit. So if we think in the direction, then it is going to be helpful and it is going to work in that direction. And then the company audit, tax returns, do not confuse. This audit is something the US clients never understand because they have no concept of an audit there. It is not that difficult as we make it out to be, but please again explain in a simple manner. Do not use the logo without asking. I was fired by someone when they had used the logo of the company and given out an engagement letter or a proposal. Just for that we got fired, telling how can you violate the rights of trademarks. So it's very simple things.
So in fact, Sri, if you remember, the client went to the extent of saying, let my legal team talk with you on this.
I know,
So
I was
that is
sweating.
that was the level of thing. And just to add here, Naman Jain, your point is getting covered in subsequent slide. He was asking a question on implication of directors if company has done anything wrong. There is a slide which is covering that also. Yes, Sri, you can.
Super. So then do not use the logo without asking. Simple things. Through our experience, we've learned. Please take explicit permission before you use. Dropbox is not secure. Any free tool is scary for me. It is not secure, but ask the client only to create some secure tool and give it to you in case you are not equipped to do it. All foreign clients have technology advanced and they have more money to spend on these matters than they pay us for our professional services. What is dual password? Implement it. So I don't know what this point exactly is on the presentation.
So DL password is very simple. Like always, there should be a double authentication. Basically, it's always better. Like we have started having that. Once you get open your email, then it will send saying, please approve it in your mobile. Please approve it in your laptop. So it's always important that you have a dual password. Please implement it. And why we are saying this is very specifically, especially for this emails or accesses or your Dropbox, everything. If it's dual password is that, please implement it, because the second password, let it be always with your client. The OTP, let it go to the client, let us get it, let us implement it. It might be a pain initially, but once we get used to it, it will be appreciated very much. So let us implement this dual password. It is very important.
Okay, super. So this is quite simple. I thought it is some GST website as GST filing has come up with some dual password requirement. What is this? I did not revise before the presentation is what I was thinking, but glad it is that simple dual authentication. Then payroll password and payroll file to be sent in separate communication. In my entire organization, the payroll team for whom we do payroll function, we have removed the access rights for them for attaching files because one mega.nair at some email ID or one mega.nayar, some email ID, wrong email ID they choose of some wrong client and they send out the pay sheets of clients, we are going to get shouted at left, right, and center. So clearly for our payroll team, they don't have attachment access. So these type of steps and checks you need to do, and always have expectations clause in your agreement.
Exception clauses in your agreement.
Sorry.
We discussed this clearly, like
And
what
we
should
dealt
be
with
the
it.
exception. Yes, and
Yeah.
we covered everything. Now we have shown the participants. We have shown our professional colleagues. Everything should happen on time. Everything should be there. But always there is nothing called on time every time. There are always tends to be something which happens wrong. So what is that we should do when it goes wrong?
I was wondering what you're talking about. So that is our
No,
that was our next slide.
I just now went and saw the other slide and told you this.
You went ahead. I thought you were getting eager to celebrate the new year with my mistakes on expectations. So what if things go wrong? So that is where Gopal asked me to throw some light. Incorporation is not done on time. Then what do we do? So we can give the solutions of you hiring the employee and then ensuring that you transfer out the employee. And reasons beyond our control can be there many times. Though in all good faith and intention, we show the PERT chart, we do all of this drama, what we learned under umbrella services, sometimes things can go wrong. Let us preempt a client initially itself and let us think through what can go wrong and give solutions for that. And laptops have to be procured, bank account has been delayed, then what to do? Then you have to get PO through your office, then procure the laptops, place the order, you get the money, you make the payment, but then do the invoicing at a time when the GST number is in place and the bank account is in place. All those things you have to plan. We are not giving you any wrong advice here. Please don't think, okay, Srilakshmi told this, that's why I'm doing it. But we are telling, okay, if something like that happens, come out with a creative solution. Forex rate is bad on that day. What do we need to do? I remember a case where we had to pay dividends out to a client and they were in UK. What my colleague had done, she had gone and done the transfer in US dollars. The client was so furious because the US to later UK, because the payment was supposed to happen in UK, but they had done the transfer in US dollars. 3 lakhs was the loss of the foreign currency exchange because later from USD to UK to convert it, was a mess of a thing. So these things can happen, but what we later told the client is we will compensate for that in the services we are rendering. Any loss is basically a financial loss. That is where we have to be creative on how we are going to help out. National holidays calendar to be sent in advance and open in calendar. So I think this is relating to the AGMs that we are not supposed to hold, and then you go ahead and hold it, then what happens? So the idea here why we have put this is to preempt the client everything in advance, and especially bank holidays for payroll. So for payroll, when your bank holidays, take this New Year holidays for instance, a lot of our clients closed payroll before Christmas itself. They didn't want us to go through even 30th of the month because for them they had this US close, and 1 week in the last week of the year was off for them. So we paid it in advance. So at the start of the month, create these processes where you communicate to a client that these are the holidays that we have. And now I remember why we have this slide, because the clients are not familiar with our holidays here in India. So they expect that we will respond to them on a Monday, but we have a long Diwali holiday and Monday, Tuesday, we are not to be seen, and they were supposed to have made a payment. It doesn't happen. No, the idea is define all of this. That is where your accounting manual and processes and the calendar which you share with a client becomes very important.
See, I want to
Anything
share
you
a
want to
live
add?
experience here, Shri. Like it happened to our client only for the Diwali, which since Shri was talking about Diwali, I was able to recollect that. They wanted to process payment to employees. So Diwali, next day was holiday. The banks were not working here. So, but for the client, they were not aware that this 2-3 days will be a holiday. So they sent an instruction saying this has to be processed. And our team member, he also said, yes, we will do it. The employees will receive credit. Luck, I'll say bad luck. What happened is the bank had a technical glitch. We had processed the payment. The client had approved it. But from the bank account, it was not going through. Neither it was going. If you go to the bank account, the transaction says processed. But it has not got debited from our account. Neither the credit has happened to the employee. Now Diwali is gone. Diwali has come, so the client is calling from US because the employees have started calling. For employees, even though they are in India, please understand, an employee who joins a foreign subsidiary, a subsidiary of a foreign company, has an expectation similar to that of a foreigner. You should not treat him as an Indian employee. With all due respect, he becomes a foreigner. So all his expectations will be to that level. So he was, even though he knows that it's a bank holiday, he has escalated it to the holding company. And understand, from US, they are calling me on Diwali morning, 10 o'clock. This has not happened. So it has to be very clear. It is better that in those cases, even though we give the bank holidays in advance, whenever there is a situation, whenever there is a long holiday coming or a festival coming, it is better to intimate the client at least a week in advance that, okay, this is going to happen. So please ensure that any payments are there, please do it. For example, for Christmas, we did that. For all our US clients, we have ensured that the payroll is closed on 25th. We didn't wait for them to tell. We told that, hey, please preempt your thing from 25th to 31st. You will not be there. Your authorized signatories will not be there. Our year is going to close. So please close it by 25th. Don't postpone. 24th is the last date. From 25th, please assume that banks are closed. We have told them that. This is a learning experience from where we learn and we start implementing. We start fine-tuning all our processes. Yes.
Super. And incorporation can be under two methodologies. One, we go through the apostille and the notary, the long route, which is probably going to take you 30 days minimum, or come with this route where you will be the director and shareholder. You will incorporate the company and transfer the company out to them. The transfer of this company will again take 30 days. If you ask me what is the difference in fee for both of this, no difference in fee, because on one, you are going to still incorporate the company in 2 days, but then you're later going to transfer everything to them. On the other, you're going to take 30 days. So eventually the effort on both is the same. But on the second model, where you become a director and a shareholder, you give a client the advantage of not doing the apostille and notary. So here is where you will have to have an indemnity agreement, the steps on how you're going to transfer to the client, so that the client doesn't become uneasy. Okay, this person has incorporated and not transferred the company out to me. It saves time on the incorporation, but as a service and a packaging model of a fee, it is still worth 1.5 lakhs or 2 lakhs, whatever you want to charge on incorporation. In fact, I know of a client where Gopal and I were involved. They had involved Boston Consulting or McKinsey Consulting, and just for incorporation alone, the foreign company had paid 2 crores. 2 crores, I am not joking. 2 crores, I swear by whatever you ask me to swear. And that is the money that someone had billed just for incorporation, and not that they did the most best incorporation. They had messed up everything. And for us to clean up that mess, they incurred again another 20 lakhs. So,
and just to add here, Sri, it's not some complex incorporation. It's a very simple, normal 10 company, 10 employee company. Nothing more than that. Not something very, very fabulous or something. Normal software company with 10 employees. That is what the code which they have done for a company.
one would have thought it's an Amazon or a Google or a Tesla coming to India and they would have charged. No, it is some simple company, and they ended up paying so much. And still, the mess of what they did of after 3 years, Gopal and I are cleaning up as we speak. Still not sorted out. So, so this was Naman's question, right? Can you be a director? So I missed what Naman's exact question is, but I hope this will clarify.
His question was, is there any implication on directors if the company has done anything wrong?
So if the company has done anything wrong, you as a director will become responsible for any fraud that has happened during your time as a director. So as a resident director, there is no saving yourself from it. If you have appointed any officer in default, then that is the person who can take a responsibility for the doings that have happened. But yes, the director is known to be responsible for any wrong that has happened. So that is where, as a professional, you and I can play a role, and we can ensure that at least statutorily the company is protected. Is my answer to this. I hope Naman gets his answer. And then the Ethical Standards Board got in a booklet for members in practice being independent director or director simpliciter in companies. Many of us professionals may not be knowing this, but there is such a standard. This booklet contains relevant provisions of the Companies Act, the Chartered Accountants Act, the Code of Ethics, frequently asked questions, and the decisions of the Ethical Standards Board taken from time to time on the said issue. So the whole idea is you need to intimate the ICAI, which is your governing body, that you are becoming a director. A chartered accountant in practice, being director simpliciter in a company, cannot sign ROC forms of the company, as it is a direct conflict of role. So for your clients, even if you are a director, you should not be doing this. That is the whole idea behind why we have put the slide. The Ethical Standards Board, while noting that there is a requirement for a director under the resident law, if he is a non-executive director and is only for the purposes of board meeting and not taking any remuneration, has been mentioned in this governance standard. Then MGD 7 is creating privacy issues. So this was one of the questions which a client was not willing to put up on their website at all. But MGD 7, as per the company regulations, is supposed to be put up on the website. And the clients always tell me India company doesn't have a website, and it is only the website of the parent company where the MGD 7, it's only the website of the parent company that is there. But we tell them create a separate tab for all of these regulatory requirements and host it on that, and let it be as simple as that, than fighting the law on whether you want to do something or you do not want to do something. If US company does not want, then a new website in India has to be created. So if they don't want to show it on their US website, then we tell them create an India tab, create specifically for that, and do your MGT7. So once a client told me, okay, I'll have an India tab, and inside that I'll hide, and then I will ask them to go through several tabs, and then I'll host the MGT7. I said, you do whatever you want, but as per law, you give me a link where I can publish it in the director's report and tell, okay, here it is shown. So they can be as creative as possible, but we have to help them understand what the law is. Gopal, yours.
So just we are coming at the fag end of our session. So just we want to touch base few more points which might be of value addition. One is the holding company versus Indian company. So when we are targeting this particular segment, so we have to be very clear that there are proper transfer pricing methodologies, transfer pricing billings, agreements are all proper. GST is going to be an export of service. So you have to be very clear that there is an LUT, and you will have to have that properly incorporated in your invoice, saying that this is an LUT invoice without payment of tax. You have your delegation authority matrix, which we already discussed, who is going to do payments, because they are all very clear on this. Like I have few of my clients, even though they are in US, they want to make the payments. So they are two authorized signatory in US. So it takes for a one single vendor payment a maximum of 4 days, because we will have to upload it. We will have to send the file to them. There will be one verifier. He will have to verify it, and then there are two approvers. Why we are saying this is you will have to take this all into your account, both for fixing the timelines or the processes, and also for your billing, because the more they are authorized signatories, more they are going to be outside India, the more follow-up work is for us. So more time we have to spend. So we have to be very clear on that. The decision making, who is going to take decisions, this has to be very clearly mentioned, because not it might be a director, CTO, anyone who is in India, but he might not be the person who might be having the ultimate decision making power. Petty cash, we generally tell clients there is no petty cash. It will be an impress system. Petty cash is not there. Hiring and firing, again, who is responsible, who has to be there, because we are going to handle the HR. So we have to be very clear on the hiring, firing, because it is a very sentimental or an it's very tricky issue. So we have to be very careful in handling this. Contracts, this is once again very important. Let us be very clear. Any simple contracts or any contracts, if you have a separate legal team, it's a good building methodology. Once again, it can be added back to our package, contract agreement building or agreement verification or drafting of agreements. That is a separate process put together. But any simple agreements, any simple contracts or purchase orders, we generally give it off. But in case it is going to be technical, ensure that it adds a value by having a proper expert for that. Similarly, authorization for bank operations, we already discussed. One more important thing, use of IP in India operations. So there are clients who have a billing methodology of a cost plus, where they render service only to the US entity, IP is going to be in US. There are also clients where they do this, plus they do sales in India. So you should be very clear as to what is going to be the billing methodology for the sales and also the usage of IP. All this has to be covered in your transfer pricing agreements. Next slide, please. This again, concept of cost. We just wanted to touch upon this. Like if, because anything is going to be a billing cost plus billing model. So if 10 rupees is going to be the cost, 2 rupees, 10% margin, 2 rupees. So 12 is going to be the revenue for them. And on that 2%, you have to pay the tax. So why we are highlighting this particular point is, on the experience, we have faced the US client coming back and saying, we are making loss in US. Ultimately, there is a loss in the parent company. Why should India company pay tax? So you have to be very clear. You have to explain all this concept to them, saying under transfer pricing regulations, international taxation models, all things are all properly covered. You have a TP agreement, so which says that there is a profit in India, though there might be a loss in US. So all this has to be clearly explained. So this is very important. And also to say that there is nothing called federal state income tax in India. It is all under one income tax. We have only income tax. There is nothing called federal taxation and then a state tax. All that is not available in India. Under the GST, let us be very clear. Refund, it is all the invoices are going to be on export, but please understand, refund will come automatically. Refund will be made, will come to you on application. We have got refunds on as per the timelines which are there or much earlier. But the challenge, please understand, your refunds will be for all your inputs. Inputs as defined under your GST will not have your capital goods included there. So please be very clear when you say all this. Please be very clear with your client saying this is what you will get automatically. For you to claim a refund of all your capital purchases, there is a separate process to be followed. Because when we initially say that all your revenues, all your revenue from India, which we are going to bill to the holding company, is going to be zero rated, that doesn't mean that everything can be zero rated. There is a possibility that you will have to bill it with tax for claiming a refund. Similarly, employee tax, this is where state and federal is going to be there. For example, professional tax, which is a state tax, PF, ESI is going to be a federal at a union level. So we have to clearly tell them all this. And there are no other taxes in India. Your GST is there, your PF, PT is there. But strictly speaking, in general, for a company which is coming from outside India to within India, there is nothing going to be a major other tax other than all this. And I have seen some of the consultants saying, SEZ, go for SEZ, there is no tax. Already there is no tax for you. Then where is the question of going to an XEZ? Please understand, we will have to tell, a client will come and say, because this is all available in Google, this is all available in various blogs. So he will come and say, why cannot I have an SEZ? You have to tell them what is the cost implication of holding an SEZ, what is the complaints aspect, because it is not very easy to hold an SEZ because there is so many complaints which are there. And what is that if it is going to be a non-SEZ? So please advise them, please educate them so that they can understand all this. This is very important in case of an holding subsidiary relationship. Next slide. Basic cardinal principles. Again, India close happens in March, US close happens in February, December. Because in US, there is no specific year required. They can have their close. So we have to be very clear because this increases your work. So in our understanding questionnaire, we have to be very clear. This we have suffered with a lot of our clients initially because we were not very clear. We all quoted, but again, in December, there will be an audit example I'm saying. So there will be an income tax filing for the parent company for which you will have to provide all the data. And the data is data for filing an income tax, which they are going to do that the CPA is going to ask you similar to the data which a statutory auditor is going to ask. You will have to prepare the financial statements for 12 months, which is going to be January to December. Again, you will have to provide all the data which is asking for, which is an additional work. So please be very clear. This is a building activity for us. We can build it in our package. Similarly, down below, 10 plus 2 is equal to 12. This is what we were discussing, 2% margin. It over a period of time builds to a 1.5. So what should we do with that profit we have? We can use it for purchase of assets. Or what should we advise the client? So let us be very clear. This is a value addition we can give. It is not that sometimes the client will come and ask, but what is that 1.5 over a period of year can become a huge amount. whether it can be retained in India, whether it is advisable to be retained in India based on the interest rate available, or it is easy, or it is advisable to export it outside, to repatriate it outside India to the parent company as a dividend. So let us advise the client proactively. So maybe 3 years down the line, 4 years down the line, when we start doing this, it is better that we advise at the beginning of the year saying, hey, you have so much profits, we feel this can be done, what is your view? Then it is up to the client to come back and say, but it is a business model, it's a billable model. Then do not have an employee here before you start a company. It's very important. The parent company will send their employee here. He'll be staying for more than 180 days. He'll become resident. It will become unnecessary problems for us. So please educate your client saying that when he can, if at all he is available, he is required to be available here when he should be available. A contractor is a weak tool to avoid PE. What they do is they will say, no, I will not send an employee. I will put a consultant agreement. Similarly, PE comes into picture, professional PE comes into picture. So even a contractor, it's not a tool. Please do not advise your client saying, no, employee is not required, be a consultant. We have faced notices from the department for all this, saying that as a professional, a consultant was there. Even though later on what they did is they put him as a professional consultant first, then they changed him into an employee. When filing the income tax returns, it went from somewhere, we got a notice. The company has got a notice saying there was a professional consultant in India who was handling the entire services of the company. Please give us all the data. It becomes a very big issue for us. So let us avoid all that. How to claim tax credit for Form 16A, because there are transactions between the parent and subsidiary. So withholding tax has to be deducted by us on the transactions with the parent entity also, like what we saw, and IP. The IP sharing, royalty has to be paid, so TDS has to be deducted, withholding tax has to be deducted. How can a 16A can be shared with them? How can they claim a credit of it? We can tell them that legal system in India, the revenue, the fraud, the process, the delays. Let us educate our client that whatever said and done, if they go for an case, if they are going to fight it out, it is a long drawn process. It is not something which will happen the next day. They cannot expect, say, for example, we have our clients saying, hey, we have got a notice, we have submitted all the details. Yes, we have submitted. So when will I get an order? It is not something which is very simple. It might take in US or somewhere other countries that they submit an order, everything happens immediately. But here it takes time. So please educate your client that whatever said and done, even though we have done all our best from our side, it might still take a time to complete the process. Repatriation means dividend taxation impact. Again, we have discussed on this, whether it can be done, whether dividend can be given, what is the implication, tax implication of that, what is the cost implication of that. Please tell your client, it will be very useful for them. They will appreciate all this when we start saying all this. This is where a value addition comes in, and it can also be a billable model for you. Next slide, Sri. Sri, we have done everything on compliance. I think now, Sri, you can just touch base on the balance, small portions which we have left out on the compliance part.
Okay, so the foreign national residing outside India, in case they visit India, then what happens? You only on the strength of a business visa don't have to do a notary or a apostille. This is one of the planning that you can do for your client. If they're visiting India, then at that time only get all of their documentation. So with the visa stamping that the immigration entry stamping that would have happened on the passport. The next one is FLA filing. This we touched on initially as an annual service which we can offer. So this FLA return is nothing but a foreign liabilities and assets return. What the law says is at any time during the company's inception, if it has received remittance in the form of foreign funds as FDIs, then you are required to file this FLA. It's an annual return, and non-filing of this return before the due date will be treated as a violation, and penalty can be invoked under the FEMA laws. It has been known recently that our teams have been doing the compounding wherever FLA non-compliance has been there, and this is an easy revenue for you. It is just some OBV value which you have to put and some 6 Excel pages which you have to fill, and then it's a revenue of about 20 to 25,000 a year which you can charge for your client. So wherever it is applicable, please do that. I'm told that the RBI website is not working for this last week of the year, where they're probably revamping again. Now you are not able to file, but otherwise the website is functional all through. These are the particulars that you need to fill. And ESOP has IP in parent company, but shares for Indian company employees. So what happens is when parent companies get incorporated in India, they want to give ESOP to their employees here in India. This ESOP is going to be that of the foreign parent. So what an employee or director of Indian company can purchase equity shares of the foreign company under its ESOP scheme, provided the Indian company is a subsidiary of the foreign company. This is the basic requirement. And the parent company should have an ESOP plan, which is the main plan. So the main plan will be with the parent. Indian company would need to create a sub plan which is carved out of the main plan. Here is where is our professional services which we can offer. So the sub plan is one of the things. Then we take approval of the board and the shareholders. Then the annual return has to be filed by Indian company with RBI at the time of exercise of the options by the employees. So this might not be a known fact to us unless we have done this in the past. The idea is this is also one of the other services which we can offer. Recording of expenses in India books and creating of ESOP reserve. This is effective from 1/4/2022. Please make note of this. Then comes the FRRO rules. Please stay away. We told umbrella services. Okay, just because I told umbrella services, don't get into this telling I will handle legal cases of the client where there is criminal matters, then FRRO, I'll do everything. It is not possible for us with the host of compliances which the government is keeping us busy on. This is something possibly that we can leave it to the experts and not burn our hands with it. But yes, if you are doing it and you have a lot of time on your hands, you want to do it, that's up to you. So the PF contribution rate for foreign workers, that is the expat employees registered with the EPF, is 12%. It is not that 1800 rule which you can apply to expat employees. Now exemption for expat employees from the contribution only if their home country has a social security agreement or economic bilateral treaty with India. If that is the only case, then there is an exemption. Then the capped wages is PF can be capped with 15,000 as gross wages, no cap on salary on which contributions are payable by the employer and employee. This is another important point for you to note. EPS, which is the pension part of it, expat employees are not eligible to get pension deduction. Hence, all PF deduction should be 12% for employee as well as the employer. So if you look at it, 24% of your salary is going to get taken away as your PF contribution for expat employees. And for expat employee, Aadhaar is not mandatory for registering in PF portal, but employee passport details have to be mentioned to get the UAN and PF number. So all of these points which we have mentioned and listed out to you, we've had practical scenarios and we have had roadblocks and miscommunication or communication gaps with the client, and we have failed in these aspects. So we are bringing that out here for you to encounter such a situation with knowledge.
So since like what Sri was adding here, since we are told that they all want to be 100% compliant. So we have to be very clear when we are telling them who is going to be an expat employee, because they will not come out and say he's an expat employee. They will just put as employee, then start going. Only when the time, maybe after some time, when we start coordinating with them, even for example, we had a case where a person had an Aadhaar. He was, later on we came to know that he had an Aadhaar. He had an Aadhaar, but he is an expat. So that we are still facing. So it is be very clear that when we do a onboarding of an employee, we take care of all the aspects. It's much better and it is convenient, because after that, facing all the regulations, the people, especially the client, it becomes a bigger problem. Next slide, please.
So see, you will have a situation with a client where you will do the KYC for the director and the director KYC is through a foreign passport, but the director is staying in India for a long time. What happens is the team which is handling the secretarial compliance might not talk to the team who is handling the payroll. So that is where a SPOC or one person overviewing a client is going to help us in rendering better services to a client. You might again get asked by your client, everything your office is only doing, then again, why are you coming back to me? So the liability on the US entity on account of issues in India, restrict employer to the India office only. Resolutions to appoint. Gopal, was this your slide, my slide?
Yeah, so you are in the flow, so I just left it out. So liability on the US entity on account of issues in India. So this is this is the general question which everyone asks: what is the liability on me? First thing, restrict employer to India office. This we already discussed. Resolutions to appoint India directors as compliance officer. This is very important. Whenever there is an India director, he will be the compliance officer. So Nariman Jain, your point, one more answer to your point is, if the India director is going to be the compliance officer, he is responsible for whatever act he has done. Indemnity insurance for directors absolutely mandatory, because we don't know what will come back. Posh and such liabilities, again, very important. We already covered that point. Cyber security liabilities, again, an insurance is available for this. Let us take the insurance. Let us tell the client to cover it, because we do not know whatever security we do, there are always hackers. So it is better to get ourselves covered for any such insurances. So next slide, please. Nariman, this is the question. This is the Supreme Court judgment. I just read the main points.
Gopal, you went to Mumbai and came, but I think you're calling Naman Nariman.
Oh, sorry, Naman. maybe the effect of Mumbai is still continuing with me, actually. Sorry, Mr. Naman Jain. So the main point here is the conduct, act, or omission on the part of a person gives rise to the liability. So the answer to your question is, if you are a director and the conduct, act, or omission also is included on the part of the person, that is, when you are a director, if any such thing has happened, then you will be liable. If not, then you are not liable. That is what is this entire judgment Supreme Court case about. Next slide, please. Sri, the next slide. Yeah, safe harbor rules. Then this is also very important, because generally the client goes to the Google website and he will ask you what is safe harbor rules. Can I go with this? Can I go with that? So let us be very clear. What is the safe harbor rules? I have just provided the rules here, which is available, which is known to everyone. I am not elaborating on that, but the point to be noted here is we will have to have an evaluation of the risk assessment of the client. So if the client is risk covered, then tell him that, okay, we don't know, it is better you go by safe harbor rules, go by 17%, 18%, you will have no questions asked. It will be much safer. But if a client is going to take risk, then for a smaller client, we can propose, say, maybe if he is going to have a turnover of maybe around 10 crores or lesser, we can say you can go for a 10%, 12% margin instead of this 17%. Next, Sri. Then comes the APA. This is one more thing where the client feels this particular thing. There might be certain clients who are rendering a complex service to the parent entity. They want, say, for example, an R&D combined with a marketing support service and combined with a development. So if they want to do if they want to be very safe, you can. This is much better than a safe harbor rule, because you are entering an agreement already with the tax authorities, and for the period covered in the APA, no questions will be asked. If you comply with the provisions of APA, this is the 100% safest route in case where you have a doubt on what is the margin to be charged for the client. India GAAP versus US GAAP, this is very, very important, because what we generally tell the client is we will prepare as per the India GAAP. US GAAP is little complex, like all we know, for example, lease accounting, asset accounting, ESOP accounting. There are complexities that in US GAAP, we will never tell the client we know everything. They appreciate the fact that when we come and tell that, sorry, US GAAP, we don't know. We will give you whatever you require, whatever data you require. Please handle the US GAAP. They are okay for that. And please don't accept saying that, okay, they are in US GAAP, we will give everything in US GAAP to them. Please don't accept that. It will be very difficult for us to comply with the US GAAP requirements without going through the entire accounting standards. Going through our accounting standards is becoming a bigger issue for us. Going through US GAAP will be a much bigger problem. So we generally don't prefer on that. RBI reporting, this is very important. This is not FLA reporting. This is the RBI reporting. We have to be very clear on this, especially for software companies. So for software companies, Softex filing is compulsory, because for goods in the customs authorities portal, directly it comes to the bank, it gets updated, all the bills, bill of exchange gets updated. But for a software export, you have to have a non-STP registration. Don't go for an STPA. There is a non-STP registration available, which is a cheaper option compared in the compliance aspect than an STPA. You have to go through that option, and you have to give a proper purpose code to your banker. Please understand, like what I told earlier, the bankers are not aware of all this. Even a private banker who says that he is well versed in Forex department, he doesn't know what is the purpose code properly for a transaction. So we have to be very clear when we are giving a purpose code. Go through the RBI purpose code list, discuss with your client saying, hey, this is what is the purpose code. Do you fall under this service? Because in the software service, there are two categories in the purpose code, one with Softex, one without Softex. We have to go with Softex. This is very important, because for a software development activity, Softex is covered. For a software consultancy, Softex is not covered. So we have to be very clear. There are different purpose code for that. So we have to be very clear when we do this. Again, inward remittance, we'll have to give proper purpose code. It has to be in foreign currency. We have to have the FIRC. The banker will never send it. They will only send you the advice. please ask for a proper foreign inward remittance certificate, because that is one of the important documents for claiming GST refund. Next slide once more. For PE in India, again, we discussed a lot of this in our previous slides. There are a lot of case laws, there are everything. Please educate your client what can be a PE, where can a PE trigger. For example, there are clients who say that I will sit in US, I will do all my, they will do a sales and marketing activity in India, they will sign contracts in India. Please tell your clients. In fact, in Gurujana, we do get an a declaration from our directors and the clients who are in foreign also, the parent company also, that they have not done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 activities as a part of our year-end compliances. So we have a process that we do get a compliance checklist getting signed by them, so that they also are educated, and we are also aware that if there is any such activity which has happened. Next slide, Shri.
So quick recap. So this is so Gopal and I were initially talking how to talk Gopal for 3 hours. Our content, he was telling, no, Shri, one slide we'll spend 2 minutes, but Gopal has gone on marathon and he's managed to come to the 3-hour close mark which we have. We'll quickly cover. So this you already know, I'm not touching on it. This again is a packaging what I spoke of. Just for incorporation, you can show the client that there are 25 steps, boss. So please, if I'm charging you 1.5 lakhs, pay me, because every step is going to take me that amount of time. This process flowchart is again something fancy we created to impress a client. It is there available for you in case you want to see it. And how do you get clients is where we said we'll touch on it a little initially only. Here we have said you can write actually these blogs. The UK US company quite a lot rely on Google ratings and the website material that is available for them. So first and foremost, we should have a fantabulous website. We have easily a query which is coming from our website 2 in a week at least, which comes to us through our website. What materializes is something later which we have to see, but then there are genuine queries which come to us through the website. So the presence has to be made felt through that. This again is where we wanted to cover up the time, and we did this fancy slide for you. So T is what T is today. T plus T minus is from today what you want to plan ahead. Before what you want to plan before is T minus. So that way you can start a few of the things at the time of incorporation, few prior to incorporation, few post incorporation. So we will make this presentation available, and it is available for you to see it, and you will know what all other steps further that is involved. Another way for you to get work is through the chambers of commerce. They are good advocates of promoting good CA professional firms. So if you register with them, or if you go to the programs that they host, and they host in fancy places and give good dinner, 5-star type of places also, you can go register, mingle with that type of a crowd, and we are known to get business through that. And what was this slide? Webinars in US. So there are a lot of these online platforms which ask for speakers to host seminars on their platforms. So through that also we can make our presence visible. Because I'm controlling the slides, we have this seer view also on me. So what is the steps and the heading I'm missing out? So what is the steps to become a member? You can be a part of these networks also. One firm, one state policy. There are networks choose only one firm in one state. You have to check whether there is a local presence in your city of the same network, or then you talk to another member of another city, then write to the secretariat, be open for any inspection but sign an NDA. So typically these network firms are known to audit us. The entire idea is, if we want to be a part of the network, we will become pruned infrastructurally. We have to be available for the trade commerces or these networks, and we have to associate them, means our quality of services also is going to improve. This helped us a lot initially. Gone is the time when we have to now go to these associations to get the work. Now they come to us to give us the work. So if we establish good credentials with them and they don't receive any complaints from the people that they have referred, then they become our goodwill ambassadors. And goodwill truly, because there is not a single rupee you're going to spend on this. Gopal, this I think is true already.
Yes, this is true. So context, like what is the knowledge we already saw, what is that is required from us? A knowledge of a CA, knowledge of a lawyer. You should have a basic sense of technology and solutions. And what does a client expect? A client is not interested on what is our knowledge. We can quote some 20 sections, 34 case laws, all that we can quote. It is there in the Google, but he is not going to appreciate that. What he is going to appreciate it is with that, what we are going to help them and how we are going to reduce the pain. So what he expects is a Spock. That is what we are going to be. Next slide, Sri.
And common thing is when we are rendering umbrella services, what typically happens is there will be 10, 12 people as an army who will be working for just a single client. What you can do is one of you can be face for the client. And in most cases in our office, it is Gopal, because you saw how he could touch on TP to corporate law to all the subjects. So somebody who is knowledgeable and has the experience should be the Spock for the client. And that Spock can work with the client. And you have a common email ID like google@gurujana.com or whatever is the firm name. Have it through a group ID where the email internally triggers to all the team members who are going to work on it. So the client also does not have to worry about remembering names and faces. And especially for foreign clients, Gopalakrishnan is like a tongue twister for them. So that is why I'm called
They call me Gopala. So. And just to add here, what she was saying, we have a client. So we have his client name was Alfonso. We had ALP. So we had ALP at gurujana.com was the common ID. So every meeting, they only used to send a mail to ALP at alp@gurujana.com. So after a few seconds, when all their response came, when the client meeting was asking, okay, I used to send a mail to ALP. Where is that ALP? I want to see that ALP. Then we told them, no, this is only a Spock ID. It is no person available there. So that is how critical it is. Like you don't have to have a place. Email ID is sufficient, which can coordinate with the team members there.
So the whole idea is make it easy for a client to work.
Right.
How to differentiate through your service offerings? There are people who will render the same service at 2,000 rupees for an incorporation you do for a lakh of rupees. But the whole idea what Gopal and we were driving is that we can package this better for the client to see value in the services that we do. When we worked with a US company who incorporated for us, at the end of the incorporation, they sent us a fabulous booklet, which was a leather bound file. And they had done everything and they'd eventually charged us some $4,500, all for an incorporation which got done in a day's time. That is when it hit to us that packaging is what matters.
The end results could be the same. The process is what is important, which we discussed right at the beginning. So we are concluding with the same thing. End results could be same, like what she told. You can do a work at 1,999, or you can do what you can price it better. But what is more important is how you price it and how you package it. And that is how it creates a difference of making a better business in India.
So
thank you so much for your time.
Thank you everyone for your time. As professionals, we all are soldiers of life. I think we have been soldiers every day who wake up to make our client's life better. So many times I wonder whether the client understands the importance of what we render for them. But truly what we do creates a better ecosystem. There are several million companies, there are several lakhs of companies which are there in India. And through our good services, we believe a lot more business is going to come to India. And we wish Chairman Sir that his cold cures away faster. And we had told Pramod he is looking younger without the glasses. So he's removed his glasses now for the thank you speech also.
Thank you, Srilakshmi Madam, for a wonderful session. Really, it was a really value addition session. Even some session. Generally, I won't sit full session. Today, I saw some slides. Really, there is so much to learn. So much to learn. Next, after my chairmanship, every program of you I'll fully attend. I'll take your PPT and I'll start working on it. What, sir? Gopalakrishnan, sir?
Sir.
It was really excellent session.
Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot for both of you. You have done a wonderful job. You have spent so much of time preparing that PPT and sharing your valuable knowledge. I thank on behalf of Bangalore branch of ICA for time and efforts in sharing knowledge. Even thank you also is less, but I cannot do more than that. I think one of member has sent some question. If you can able to address.
Sure.
Yeah, Pramod, please.
Question is the tracker automated in terms of updating the same, which is followed by your good self?
So we did have a tracker which was automated initially, but
in your initial slides.
Yeah, the tracker which we correct.
Yeah.
The tracker was automated initially. We did have an automatic tracker, but the challenge was because of the uncertainties, we started we stop that and we are doing it in a manual basis. Like there is a Spock or there is a person who constantly does and update the tracker for the client to happen when it, because there are a lot of uncertainties in incorporations and things. So we have it as a manual tracker for the time being.
So we are cracking this as we speak, Pramod. We have experimented with so many solutions. Zoho tracker was very good, but it was time consuming. And just for me to update a tracker was taking me 2 days time. So what was the point in simplifying is what we felt. And it was coming to 7,000 rupees per client tracker. So we didn't feel it feasible. But I'm certain if one more session happens by then, we would have cracked it.
Blessing in disguise, Santa, you have made use of it that. But I heard some of the small and medium firms, madam, they won't use office management system because it is so much process oriented. Even articles will not also involve in that. How to overcome? We have to take separate session for them, or how initially time consumes, later it will become seasoned, or how we can become like you?
Exactly, sir. It comes from the top management, sir. I remember, and CA Institute has such fabulous tie-ups today with the ERPs. Like you give us free for a smaller entity, and then how we can grow with it. The facilitation has already been done. It's up to us to implement. So our founder partner, from him, he was implementing things for us. So if the top management in the organization, whoever has the voice and whoever is the decision maker, if they sit to implement on it, then rest will follow suit, sir. And today genuinely youngsters want to do such things, so we can pave way for them. And you have been conducting fabulous and practical sessions already, so I don't know with the session whether it will again drive home that point, but it comes from the top, sir.
Okay, thank you, madam. What is the best software for office management you can refer, madam? Free or paid? Both.
So we are not going to be paid for advocating anyone, and we are not advocating any product, but at least we can tell from our experience. We have started with Pepilio, and that has been a great help for us when we wanted to organize the documents, who is assigned on what work, what are the task lists. Everything was automated through Pepilio.
Okay, thank you, madam. Really, once again, I thank both of you. I thank on behalf of Bangalore branch of ICA. Thank you. Thanks a lot. I also thank all the members for active participation. Thank you. Happy
Thank you,
New
sir.
Year
We are
in
also
advance.
grateful.
Wish you the year. Thank you.
Happy New Year, everyone. Thank you, sir.